From Harry Hurley Way in the world's playground to the broadcast pioneers of Philadelphia Hall of Fame, you're about to find out why Harry Hurley has been named to the Talkers Magazine list of the 100 most important talk show hosts in the nation.
Yes.
Live from the studios of Town Square Media in Northfield, it's Hurley in the Morning on WPG Talk Radio 95.5 and the WPG Talk Radio app.
Thank you. It's 7 minutes past the hour. It's a total eclipse of talk radio. Welcome to the program. Let me tell you a little bit about what you can expect today, here, there, and everywhere. And I was thinking about this. I knew I would begin with it, even though I'm telling you there's a lot that we want to update you on. And wide open forum coming up at the 7 o'clock hour. We're trying to do a flippy-do, Mayor Kane in the 8 o'clock hour. And I probably should have teased this more than I did. And maybe I haven't teased it at all. And that would be an error to not have done it. Just the weekend got away from me. Tony Orlando today at 9:05. He's in the Central Time Zone, so he's up a bit earlier than that at 8:05. All right, so you probably know by now, because there has been uber market saturation level coverage about the total solar eclipse for a lot. I think it's 100 million or so. It's a total eclipse. 200 and some million. It's a partial eclipse. But I'll tell you what, the map I'm looking at, it's a partial solar eclipse in New Jersey, but not by much. I mean, it's almost. It looks really good. Don't look at it, though, without proper eye protection. So this says that the partial solar eclipse in New Jersey will be at 2:07 p.m. That's Eastern. And I guess it's Eastern Daylight Time. Daylight savings time. It's really crazy, though. New Mexico, for example, their partial solar eclipse is at 10:05 a.m. New York is 5 minutes before us at 2:02 p.m. North Carolina is having a partial solar eclipse. Incidentally, New York is having a total solar eclipse. We're not missing a total solar eclipse by much. I mean, if you're in your home and you have the curtains pulled, but usually, you can tell when it's, I'm not talking about blackout curtains, but you could tell, and if you didn't have them pulled, and you can tell when it's dusk, that's what's going to happen. Let me tell you this is probably worth a few minutes. Alabama, partial solar eclipse, 12:33 p.m. Central. Alaska, 9:58 a.m. Partial solar eclipse, but it's the worst. Barely. This tiny little nothing sliver. And when I say sliver, it's like the size of a dash. If you took the head of an eraser and said that would be the sun, I'm talking about a tiny little dash. Next to nothing. Arizona, partial solar eclipse and a whole lot. 10:04 a.m. That's Mountain Standard Time. Arkansas, they're in the news for another reason we'll get to. A total solar eclipse at 12:27 p.m. Central. California, partial solar eclipse at only about half. 10:03 a.m. Pacific Time. Colorado, probably about 90%. Partial solar eclipse, 11:18 Mountain. Connecticut, almost the whole deal. It's being called a partial solar eclipse, but almost the whole thing, 2:11 p.m. Eastern. Delaware, slightly less, but almost a full total eclipse, but it's partial at 2:06 p.m. Delaware is very close to the same time we are. And obviously we're very close to Delaware, but District of Columbia, nearly a total eclipse, but not quite, 2:04 p.m. Eastern. Florida, about 90% partial solar eclipse, 12:35 p.m. Central. Why would that be Central? I guess because of that one section in the Panhandle that's a different time. Because much of Florida is in Eastern. Georgia, about the same as Florida, 12:41 p.m. Hawaii, 6:27 a.m. And that terrible, tiny little, more than Alaska, but not that much, maybe 10%. Idaho, maybe 35%. Partial solar eclipse, 10:26 a.m. Pacific. Illinois, oh my gosh, it's a total solar eclipse. 12:41 Central. Indiana, same deal. 12:44 p.m. Central. Iowa, partial, but it's really almost looks to me like a total eclipse. 12:39 p.m. Central. Kansas, 12:25 p.m. Central. It says partial, but again, it looks like a total eclipse to me. Kentucky is a total solar eclipse, 12:40 p.m. Louisiana says partial, but it looks like a total, 12:22 p.m. Maine, total solar eclipse, 2:16 p.m. Maryland, 2 p.m. Eastern, partial solar eclipse, but it's almost a full total eclipse. Massachusetts, same deal, listed as partial, but looks like a full eclipse to me. 2:12 p.m. Eastern. Michigan, say total eclipse, 12:52 p.m. Central. Minnesota, partial solar eclipse, but looks like about more than 90% at 12:43 Central. Mississippi looks like a total eclipse, but it's listed as partial, but almost the whole thing is covered. 12:28 Central. Missouri, total eclipse, 12:33 Central. Montana, about a 50% partial solar eclipse, 11:33 a.m. Mountain Time. Nebraska, partial solar eclipse, but about a 90% deal at 12:31 p.m. Central. Nevada, about a 50% partial solar eclipse, 10:10 a.m. Mountain. New Hampshire, I covered. New Jersey, it says partial, but looks like the whole deal to me. New Mexico, partial, but looks like a full. New York, total solar eclipse. North Carolina, partial solar eclipse. North Dakota, about 70% at 11:42 a.m. Mountain. Ohio, total solar eclipse, 1:51 p.m. Eastern. Oklahoma, total solar eclipse, 12:22 p.m. Central. Oregon only looks like about maybe 20% partial solar eclipse, 10:24 a.m. Pacific. Pennsylvania, total solar eclipse, 1:59 p.m. Eastern. Rhode Island, partial, but it looks like a total, 2:14 p.m. Eastern. South Carolina, about 95% partial solar eclipse, 1:48 p.m. Eastern. South Dakota, maybe 80% partial solar eclipse, 11:35 a.m. Mountain. Tennessee, total solar eclipse, 12:37 p.m. Central. Texas, total solar eclipse, 12:06 p.m. Central. Utah, about, let's say 60%, 10:15 a.m. Mountain. Vermont, total solar eclipse, 2:13 p.m. Eastern. Virginia, looks like a total solar eclipse, but it says it's not, barely not, 1:50 p.m. Eastern. Washington, That's Washington State, not Washington, D.C. Maybe 15%. Terrible. Partial solar eclipse, 10:33 a.m. Pacific. West Virginia says partial, but it's almost a full solar eclipse, 1:54 p.m. Eastern, to left. Wisconsin, partial solar eclipse, but it looks like the full deal, 12:48 p.m. Central, and a partial solar eclipse in Wyoming, probably about 80% the sun covered by the moon, 11:26 a.m. Mountain. And you know it, but I'm just going to say it. A solar eclipse is when the moon lines up between the earth and the sun and covers it, either totally or partially. We'll be back. 18 minutes past the hour. It's the Hurley in the Morning program.
Mark Levin.
Are you going to be played by Joe Biden?
No.
Joe Biden's using the tactics of totalitarian, autocratic leaders around the world, of totalitarian, autocratic bigots from 100 years ago in our own country. Are you going to be played by this guy? You think our country is safer? You know it's not. You think your neighborhoods are cleaner and safer? You know they're not.
Mark Levin on South Jersey's talk station, WPG Talk Radio 95.5.
Fox News commentary.
Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson says he will not endorse Joe Biden in 2024 and regrets doing it in 2020. I'm Tommy Lahren. More next.
Donald Trump Jr. here. Since January of 2021, the cost of living has increased by 17.9%. You can't get that money back, but you can stop your losses by diversifying into a gold IRA from my friends at Birch Gold Group. To learn more, get your free info kit on gold IRAs by texting the word SHELTER to 989898. That's SHELTER to the number 989898 to get your free info kit from Birch Gold now.
Message and data rates may apply.
Biden voters, whether they'll admit it or not, have a lot of buyer's remorse given Biden's horrible record, failing cognitive abilities, and the state of the nation. Turns out megastar Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson is one of those regretful voices. In an exclusive interview with Will Cain on Fox and Friends, The Rock not only said he will not endorse Joe in 2024, but that he full-on regrets doing it in 2020. This come-to-Jesus moment from The Rock is significant given he has tens of millions of followers from all walks of life and political affiliations. You know, I'm not one to give too much credence to celebrity endorsements, but this about face is pretty major. Most wealthy celebs will reluctantly stay in the Biden camp because they aren't feeling the pain he has caused, quite like the rest of us little people. But if even The Rock looks around this country and can admit it's going to hell in a handbasket, well, that's really something. I'm Tommy Lahren, and you can watch my show Tommy Lahren is Fearless at Outkick.com.
WPG Talk Radio 95.5. For complete contest rules, visit WPGTalkRadio.com. You're waking up with Hurley in the Morning.
I listen every morning.
WPG Talk Radio 95.5.
Thank you. Welcome back. 23 minutes past the hour, Hurley in the Morning. Thank you for waking up early in the morning. Your phone calls coming up in about 38 minutes or so. 12 noon deadline today for Merrick Garland to turn over Biden documents, or contempt of Congress awaits him if he fails. Now, this is a lawless regime. I expect one of two things: either crickets, nothing burgers, and I mean nothing, or a letter that says we have provided unprecedented cooperation. See, this is a criminal outfit that breaks so many rules and laws on a regular basis, but they have the audacity. It's kind of like having a rally for the Smalls and Constance Days Chapman. We broke that story coming up later this week. It's kind of like that kind of audacity. Hi, rally for us. Incredible. Or, so nothing, or the letter. Now, we kind of we have a little bit of a window into what they're thinking, because here is what the DOJ back on March 25th had to say about this. This was when the House was requesting the entire Robert Hur special counsel report and audio recordings, video recordings, anything that hasn't been turned over. And here we go. Quote, the department, meaning the Department of Justice, has been extraordinarily transparent with Congress. Do you believe these people? These skanks, scumbags, liars. The department has been extraordinarily transparent with Congress. The Attorney General released Mr. Herr's report to Congress and made no redactions or changes. We hope they will consider this unnecessary escalation. Why? Equal branch of Congress wants something. Why is that escalation? If you want to say that you had this incredible, super duper, uber level of cooperation, give it up. Give it up, why don't you? In the sports world, this was surprising. I literally woke up to this. I want to go to my notes, although I could speak on this without notes. John Calipari, formerly UMass coach. He was the head coach that recruited Lou Rowe from Atlantic City High School, who had a really good career at UMass. And Calipari had a great career at UMass. And then for the past 15 years, Calipari has been the head coach of the legendary Kentucky Wildcats men's basketball program. And ESPN was the first to report this last night. I didn't learn about it until about 2 o'clock this morning, that it appears that John Calipari will be headed to Arkansas. That the only thing they were doing was finalizing something. I think that'll be like a 5-year deal. That rings a bell. But they're just finalizing the contract, it seems. It seems like he's out in terms of Kentucky. Now, Kentucky, 2 out of the last 3 years, exited the NCAA men's basketball tournament in the first round. Very inexplicable. And what some people are criticizing is that they're saying, I don't agree with it. I'm a Calipari fan, but they're saying that he's become sort of Hollywood. But in fairness, he's the kind of coach, he's so successful in recruiting the best of the best that many of his players play just 1 year. It's really hard. I mean, you got to give credit. I'm not that big a fan of the South Carolina team. I'm not a hater. I just didn't like the way they played. Now the big female, Cordosa, I think is her name. Never heard of her until yesterday. She'll be going to the WNBA, and she really was the difference in the game. I know they're going to tell you that South Carolina outscored Iowa 37-0 from the bench. That's huge. They had a big rebounding lead as well. I don't remember exactly, but 50-something to 20-something. So they had a big advantage in rebounding as well. The size of South Carolina wore Iowa down, and Iowa just would have to make at such a high percentage rate because they weren't able to rebound. They couldn't rebound even when they had position underneath the free throw. Just the size of South Carolina was the difference. So I'm not a hater. And also, when you win a national championship with 5 new starters, as South Carolina women did, it's huge. But they're saying that Calipari is not, I don't know how to put it, not doing the hard knocks, but the soft, Hollywood celebrity type stuff. Again, I don't agree with that, but that's what people are saying. And I think that sometimes you need a change of scenery. Your Sean Hannity's, being able to be at one place for, he's not quite 30 years, but upper 20-some years at the Fox News Channel, for example. It's very unusual. even locally. We're on July 1st going to hit 32. It's unprecedented almost. And there's been a few people, 3, that I'm aware of that have ever done it. 1 has passed, 2 still are playing the game. So that's here in our market. So it is unusual. It's very unusual. And I think what you're going to find is going forward, it will even be more unusual. You know, I talk about that quotient, that beautiful quotient called loyalty. And wherever you have it, with a handful of close friends, if you have it at your place of employment, anywhere, your immediate family, anywhere that you have it, I often say this, hold on to it as tight as you can. Because loyalty, I'm telling you, Calipari has brought, I think, multiple, I know 1, but I think multiple national championships. Maybe just 1, 2009. And no, did he also win in 2012? They had a really great team. So anyhow, I think he has brought at least 2 championships, but he's on thin ice. The AD had to come out and say, oh, no, he'll be back. And kind of like, I think Calipari saw himself under the microscope, on a short leash, not a position that a person like him wants to be in. He likes to be in control. So he's taking his ball and he's headed for Arkansas. I'm almost positive the deal is done. It just will be announced probably today. And if they don't announce it today because of the men's championship tonight, kind of interesting that it came out on the day of the women's championship, on the eve of the men's national championship. I know that some sports don't let deals go through or be announced. They can be done, but they can't be announced like until after the Super Bowl, for example, and things like that. I'm a huge John Calipari fan. I think he's a great coach. He was the face of Kentucky basketball since 2009, and it appears all but certain that he'll be taking the Arkansas men's head coaching position. That's a major shakeup in college basketball. Back in a moment.
This is the Town Square, New Jersey Info and Weather Network.
Hey, thank you. It's Harry Hurley. 3 stories that you can follow. I'll give you maybe 4 on the WPG Talk Radio 95.5 app. 2 articles about a so-called Atlantic City rally. What a joke for Marty and LaQuetta Small and Constance Days Chapman. And all of you clergy and other leaders, you're going to be on the wrong side of history on this one. Atlantic City School has asbestos. Parents, teachers, students not told. No surprise. And the Egg Harbor Township Police did a...
From the Town Square, New Jersey Info and Weather Network, I'm Chief Meteorologist Dan Zarrow. Happy Solar Eclipse Day. Don't look up yet. The eclipse doesn't start until about 2 o'clock this afternoon. Not a perfect weather forecast today as scattered clouds will build in, but there will be some breaks along the way. Chance of a late day shower, fairly warm, high 63 degrees. Partly cloudy and comfortably cool tonight, low of 50. Mostly cloudy and dry tomorrow, our high reaches for 70. Get weather 24/7 wherever you are. Download our free mobile app today.
This is an important safety.
Enable our skill and tell your smart speaker, play WPG.
Or by NHTSA.
Starting your day the right way with Hurley in the morning.
Honesty and transparency, not afraid to get down and dirty and really just tell me the truth.
WPG Talk Radio 95.5.
Hey, thank you. Right next door to Broadcast Center is an amazing store. They've helped me over the in the past and did a great job on one of my digital devices that needed a new battery, and that's certainly not something that, especially with the new technology, you really need them. There's a whole gluing thing that goes on inside and everything, and you break the seal when you put a battery in. They can do it all. Batteries Plus in Northfield and Mount Laurel, and one of our WPG industry aces, Need a car, truck, marine, RV, camper, golf cart, ATV, mobility scooter, or motorcycle battery? They literally have them all. Get ready for the storm season. If you need LED, emergency lighting, a portable generator, or a surge protector, Batteries Plus has them all. Broken phone or tablet screen, I've been there. They can fix it. Cell phone battery, need replacement. Watch and key fob batteries, they've got them all. Get a replacement while you wait. That's the neat thing. When they did the battery on my phone, I didn't have to leave my phone. They just did it right while I waited. I walked in. You didn't need an appointment. You could just go in, and they took care of it. Get a replacement while you wait. If it's broken, bring it in, and they can fix it. Right inside Batteries Plus, from cracked screens to battery replacements. The charge port, sometimes that gets loose. They can do that. Speakers, microphones, pretty much anything inside a phone they can fix. Batteries Plus, and we fix it. 900 Tilton Road in Northfield and Route 73 in Mount Laurel. Stop into one of their locations and enter to win a pair of tickets to see Journey and Def Leppard. Batteries Plus, right here, next to Broadcast Center. If you pulled into Broadcast Center and parked, you could walk to Batteries Plus. They're in the same little strip mall that directly connects to Broadcast Center and our parking lot area. David Axelrod, I'm telling you, Barack Obama doesn't want Joe Biden to win a second term. I'm telling you, there's certain things I say that I can prove, and there's certain things I say that I can't prove, but I know it. This David Axelrod is an Obama bot. And he's constantly, Joe Biden called him we'll say the PR word that sounds like Rick. Get it? Rick. Begins with a P, though. Then Rick. See how we did that? Keep it nice, but still tell you what he said. Biden has, when he can remember anything, the thinnest skin. Maybe Marty Small has thinner skin, but thin skin. Whew. Crazy thin. So during a recent interview, David Axelrod said, quote, when Biden attempts to tout a strong U.S. economy, quote, it drives me crazy when he does that. Former Obama advisor David Axelrod criticized Biden's economic strategies, revealing that it drove him crazy when the president tried to, quote, extol the miracle, end quote, of his economy as Americans struggle to afford groceries and so much more. Energy, you name it. Quote, I wouldn't go out there and extol the miracle of the Biden economy. It just drives me crazy when he does that. This was an Axelrod interview with Al Roker. Or he's actually, take that back. Axelrod was referring to the Biden Easter interview with Al Roker when Biden said that, quote, we have the strongest economy in the world. Axelrod believes that's a wrong strategy. He said, and I quote, instead of sort of doing what you'd expect Joe Biden to do, because he's a person of empathy, he's not, who grew up in a working class circumstance and identify with the concern, he said, I'd tell them we've got the strongest economy in the world, and and this is just him speaking broken. And he continues to do that. That is the wrong strategy. Quote, the right strategy is to say, quote, look, we've made a lot of progress from the day I walked in the door as a country, and I'm proud of our country for fighting through this pandemic and getting her back to where we've got this much employment. That's fake too. But the fact is, the way people experience this economy is the way I did when I was growing up in Scranton, Pennsylvania. How much did you pay for the groceries? How do you afford the gas, the rent. And these continue to be a problem, and I'm fighting. So that's what Axelrod says. Remember, Axelrod also suggested in the past that the president should consider whether it's, quote, wise for him to remain in the presidential race as Biden was trailing former President Trump in several hypothetical election matchups, including several important key swing states. And, of course, he trails in all of them. And when you go to the Real Clear Politics, even Wyoming, I mean, the Wall Street Journal came out with 46-46 tie late last week. But if you go to all the polling, Trump leads all 7 battleground states. Now, I always square with you. I tell you, when something is likely to happen, when it could happen, even when it seems like it could happen, and I have either insight or an idea that it will change, I tell you that. I'm going to tell you something about Ohio in the general election when we come back. And obviously Ohio is very important. Only, I think, John F. Kennedy has won the presidency without winning Ohio. It's only been one time.
Hurley in the morning.
It's breaking news that I can trust.
WPG Talk Radio 95.5. Hurley in the morning.
Cut the BS and let's just get to the truth.
WPG Talk Radio 95.5.
Thank you. Welcome back. All right, here's the news about Ohio. I'm surprised this hasn't gotten at least a little bit of coverage. In a letter to Ohio's Democratic Party chairman, the Secretary of State of Iowa, Frank LaRose, has warned that the Democratic National Convention will take place after a state deadline to declare a candidate. All right, so what does that mean? What did he say? I know you heard the words, but what do I mean? Here's the deal. And I guess the Democrats are going to do something. They have to do something to resolve this because they're not officially picking Biden as the nominee until after Ohio's general election ballot deadline, which means that if they don't do something about this, Joe Biden will not be on the Ohio ballot. Now, doesn't that tell you that even if you believe, they'll work something out, I don't know what it is or what they have to do, but a special convention just for, whatever, special dispensation, whatever they have to do, they're going to find a way to do it. But by all rules, but remember, Democrats never follow rules. So I'm telling you, they'll work this out. The Democratic National Convention isn't taking place until August 19th. The deadline for the candidate to be provided to the state of Ohio for inclusion on the general election ballot is August 7th. So you see the dilemma. ABC was the first to report about the existence of this letter. I saw it Friday afternoon. I think it came out about 2:45 in the afternoon. I saw it probably not long after that and thought, okay, this is a problem, but it's not, because they're going to meet weeks, 2 weeks or whatever after the deadline, but they're Democrats. Rules don't apply. So LaRose, who's the Secretary of State, wrote the Ohio Democratic Party chair, Liz Walters, and he said that the oversight can be rectified in two ways, either by the Democratic Party moving up its nominating convention or by getting the Ohio State Legislature to, quote, create an exemption to this statutory requirement by May 9th. That's according to state law. Now, there's a Republican governor, DeWine. I think there's a Republican majority in the legislature. They could, you know what Democrats would do. I'll double check who has the majority in the state legislature. And DeWine, he's just almost a Democrat. So he'll, what do you need me to do? I'm happy to help you. You wouldn't help Republicans, but I can't wait to help you. So this is why I'm telling you, incidentally, I don't see them moving their convention. I mean, you have to schedule things and have the arena, and there's other things going on. Easier said than done. So I don't see them nominating. They're moving their nominating convention up. I don't see that happening. And then the only other remedy would be for the Ohio State Legislature to create an exemption. And I mean, honestly, I think it's the right thing to do. The other side would never, ever accommodate you. But I'm not into that kind of thing. Biden's going to be the nominee. It's a timing thing. I'm for getting it resolved. Trump's going to win Ohio. I'm very confident of that. But even if it was going to be a nail biter, I'm not like, and I would urge you to not be like the other side. It's frustrating because they play so incredibly dirty, so unfair. Oh, they would say, oh, you don't want to move your convention? Too bad. Oh, you want me? You have an emergency? You want your emergency to be my problem? No, I'm not going to move the law for you. That's what Democrats would do. This was encouraging. We've been telling you for a long time how this Biden DOJ hammers Trump, hammers people close to Trump, but how they give break after break to Biden and Democrats. A Biden-appointed judge torched the Biden DOJ for defying subpoenas after they prosecute Trump advisors. Quote, there's a person in jail right now, and he is speaking about, God, I forgot his name the other day too, Peter Navarro. That's who he's speaking about. There's a person, quote, in jail right now because you all brought a criminal lawsuit against him because he did not appear for a House subpoena. A President Biden appointed judge slammed the Justice Department's apparent hypocrisy. It's not apparent, literally hypocrisy on Friday for allowing attorneys involved in the Biden family investigation to defy subpoenas, even though former Trump advisor Peter Navarro is sitting in prison for doing the same thing. You see what I'm saying? It's not just me or you saying or feeling this way. District Judge Anna Reyes ripped the DOJ at a status conference for not letting DOJ lawyers Mark Daley and Jack Morgan provide testimony as part of the House Judiciary Committee's investigation into the Biden family and the impeachment inquiry into the president. Quote, there's a person in jail right now because you all brought a criminal lawsuit against him because he did not appear for a House subpoena, Reyes said during a hearing on the Judiciary Committee's lawsuit. And, of course, that's Navarro that they're referring to. Navarro was sent to prison last month for 4 months, charged and convicted with contempt of Congress. You understand, before Navarro and Steve Bannon, this never happened. Roger Stone, this never happened in all of American history. Navarro was sent to prison in March for 4 months, charged and convicted with contempt of Congress after he refused to comply with a congressional subpoena demanding his testimony and documents relating to the January 6, 2021 attack on the U.S. Capitol. Navarro said he could not cooperate with the committee investigating the January 6th attack because Trump had invoked executive privilege, an argument that lower courts have rejected. Well, of course they did, because it's Trump. Former White House advisor Steve Bannon also received a 4-month sentence for similar contempt of Congress charges, but was allowed to stay free pending appeal. But with Navarro, no. These rabid Trump bloodsuckers, politician Democrats faking like they're judges. Navarro said, hey, I'd like to stay, out of jail pending my appeal. No. Nope. Now, what if you win your appeal? What does he win now? Because they already put him in jail. Quote, I think it's quite rich you guys pursue criminal investigations and put people in jail for not showing up, but then direct current executive branch employees to take the same approach. Reyes blasted. You all are making a bunch of arguments that you would never accept from any other litigant, said the judge. And now you guys, quote, are flouting those subpoenas. I like the word flouting. And you don't have to show up, Reyes continued. She said that the DOJ's position would delight defense attorneys up and down the country. I imagine that there are hundreds, if not thousands, of defense attorneys who would be happy. And she goes on to talk about how they would use that, how you put who you want in jail and you let who you want go free. That's not the way that the justice is blind and the equal, the scales of justice are supposed to work. Hey, here's another one that's not getting any publicity whatsoever. The greatest relief pitcher in Major League Baseball history, the great Mariano Rivera, has endorsed President Trump for president. Rivera talked about having been given the Presidential Medal of Freedom in 2019 was amazing. I mean, it was an amazing moment. Receiving that medal was special. So he was interviewing with Sid Rosenberg from WABC Radio in New York. Rosenberg said, quote, I'm very afraid, Mariano, for New York and this world. I've got a 19-year-old daughter. She's going to turn 20 on Sunday, and a 15-year-old son. And I think we need President Trump to win, or it could be very, very ugly. Do you agree with that? Quote, I agree with that, Rivera replied. Quote, President Trump, he's my friend. I can't deny that. Before he was the president, he was my friend. Because of that, I'm going to vote for him. So there you have it. President Trump himself shared a portion of the interview on his Truth Social account. Hey, this is a Dateline, New Jersey story that I don't have a lot of time to delve into great detail during this hour. You're going to hear the music is going to play us off starting in about 20 seconds. But the New Jersey Attorney General has taken control of a county prosecutor's office in New Jersey. And that's it's pretty rare stuff when you see that take place. See if I can give you just a little bit on the way out. I know that Anthony Picone, previously deputy director of the Office of Public Integrity and Accountability, has accepted the role with a near 24-year record of fighting corruption and serving the public interest. And the Attorney General, Platkin, has commended Picone's dedication to justice and his well-earned public trust, emphasizing the importance of county prosecutors in safeguarding New Jersey's public safety. So this is the Attorney General taking out a prosecutor and putting in, I guess it's an acting prosecutor, in Warren County, New Jersey. We'll talk more about that when we have time. I hope you'll call me right now. Open forum begins 609-407-1450.
WPGG Atlantic City, WENJ HD3 Millville, a Town Square media station. Everything you need to know in 6 minutes starts now. From Harry Hurley Way in the world's playground to the broadcast pioneers of Philadelphia Hall of Fame, you're about to find out why Harry Hurley has been named to the Talkers Magazine list of the 100 most important talk show hosts in the nation. Live from the studios of Town Square Media in Northfield, it's Hurley in the Morning on WPG Talk Radio 95.5 and the WPG Talk Radio app.
Thank you. Welcome back. It is 7 minutes past the hour on the Hurley in the Morning program. The latest on Israel, where they have pulled out of southern Gaza, leaving just one brigade. So, of course, the hate Israel crowd, couldn't be more proud of themselves, couldn't be happier. That includes Joe Biden. He has undermined Israel at every turn. And if you look at every single, I know politicians, when they have, they're an incumbent and they have a certain level of power, they try everything they can to leverage and give themselves an advantage, especially in the before you know it, the fast run up to the general election itself. I understand that. But it's usually a little bit more tempered than what we see now. This brazenly hyper partisan. When you hear this Karine Jean-Pierre, she's talking about, yes, the president today will announce, I forget how much it's going to be, but millions and millions more in student loan forgiveness. And then Karine Jean-Pierre says, despite Republicans trying to stop him at every turn. And I'm thinking, there's just never been anything like these freaks. The White House press secretary and all these different parts of the apparatus, that's the people's government. They run it as their own slush fund company or whatever. It's disgusting. So obviously there's been a lot of pressure brought to bear, particularly when Israel, and there's no doubt they try to make it, the one person said that it was on purpose. Come on. There's no way that Israel would ever bomb a volunteer organization that was providing food and aid to the Palestinian people. It was a terrible mistake. And it changed everything for Israel because it gave all the Israel haters the opportunity to really have something to hang their hat on. And they ran this thing like crazy. Then, of course, you have Joe Biden meeting with Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu, who he has been undermining the whole time. You have these people calling for new elections. I mean, just imagine calling for new elections during a time of war when a terrorist enemy killed so many innocent people. Now, understand something. Anytime that Israel strikes and kills an innocent person, it is an accident. They go to the most incredible lengths to warn the Palestinian people that they're going to be bombing. They even send sometimes ordinances that have no explosive capability but can make a large sound. And that's to warn them that within an hour or whatever the time frame might be, to not be where you are now because this is going to happen. Get out. I mean, everything Israel does is to try to prevent the loss of innocent civilians. Everything Hamas does is to maximize killing innocents. Here's my prediction. Whenever this all eventually gets settled out, there are hostages are dead now that we don't know are dead. And there are many hostages in very bad condition. They're not being fed well. I understand from people that I know, some of this is as good as the sources that I have, but these are national, well-placed sources, that some of the hostages are pregnant by these Hamas monsters and terrorists. Imagine that. So I don't know what number still exists, but it's not, in my opinion, it's not the number that you might think, because the treatment has been awful. So all the Israel haters, they've reduced the troops in southern Gaza. It's down to just one brigade. Netanyahu was saying it's basically to give the troops a breather and not any concession towards a ceasefire. I would have no problem if you could have a ceasefire and you could get the hostages out, and then Israel can go right back. And what they have to do is, this needed to be the time. That's why the unfortunate bombing of the aid workers, this needed to be the time that we couldn't have the definition of insanity. And that's just doing the same thing each and every time that Hamas attacks Israel, then Israel attacks back, but then it ends with some negotiated garbage agreement that's not worth anything, that Israel would honor, and of course Hamas won't. It's like Iran. You think how could any administration ever make a deal with the Iranians on anything where we keep our word and they don't, and we give them billions of dollars? You look at what Biden has done. Undermine Israel, always propping up Hamas. And that's because, let's face it, there is a part of the Democrat base that is big time, unapologetically pro-Hamas. And that's the wing that Biden is playing to try to shore up his base. Isn't that sick? When we come back from the break, you will join the program. It is Hurley in the Morning on the station that plays the winners. WPG Talk Radio, 95.5. We are South Jersey's talk station.
You're waking up with Hurley in the Morning.
Established, reputable.
WPG Talk Radio, 95.5.
Turn up your radio. Here's the Sean Hannity Morning Minute.
Look at the price of everything. Eggs, what you were paying in 2020, you're almost paying double. I don't particularly love frozen pizza, but if you like frozen pizza, even that's a massive percentage. Butter and potato chips and cereal and milk, just the basics. What you could buy 4 years ago versus what you can buy today is 36% less. It's unreal. Okay, maybe it's not impacting the rich or those people that are doing so well with the Biden stock market, but it's a disaster. Now they're pushing. By the way, Robert F. Kennedy Jr. wants a high minimum wage. Out in California, they enacted a $20 minimum wage, and now fast food workers, a lot of places are closing down.
Check out the Sean Hannity radio show later today, right here.
Getting quality employees to fill positions in your company is essential, but finding those people can be a major hassle, unless you use ZipRecruiter. ZipRecruiter makes finding quality people a breeze. And right now you can try it for free at ZipRecruiter.com/free. With ZipRecruiter, one click sends your job to hundreds of top job sites. But more than that, ZipRecruiter's advanced technology identifies the candidates with the skills you need, sends you a list of great matches to review, then actively invites them to apply for your job. And the results speak for themselves. 4 out of 5 employers who post on ZipRecruiter get a quality candidate within the first day. That's right, the first day. Now you can focus on your business and let ZipRecruiter do the work finding the best people for you. See for yourself. Experience the ease, efficiency, and power of ZipRecruiter for free. Just go to ZipRecruiter.com/free. That's ZipRecruiter.com/free. ZipRecruiter.com/free.
Hurley in the Morning. WPG Talk Radio 95.5.
.org.
Hurley in the Morning.
They really do separate fact from fiction.
WPG Talk Radio 95.5.
Hey, thank you. 19 minutes past the hour. Wide open forum for this entire hour. Going to your calls right now at 609-407-1450. 8 o'clock hour, I hope, is Mayor Kane. On Friday, I asked the mayor if he would make a switch to the 8 o'clock hour because in a different time zone we have, and it's earlier, so we have Tony Orlando today in the 9 o'clock hour in probably one of his first long-form interviews since retiring from live performances. And we've been very careful and clear to report in the various pieces that we have written and the different on-air commentary that we have done about Tony Orlando that he's retiring from concert touring, but he's not retiring. He's going to do military events and not-for-profit events. He'll do shows. He's just not going to be regularly touring. So it's retirement from the regular concert touring that he did for 64 years. I mean, that's amazing. And if you have the opportunity, I saw him in a period of 6 days in Atlantic City at the Superstar Theater at Resorts and at the Mohegan Sun Arena 6 days later. So it was a Friday night. No, take that back. It was a Saturday night in Atlantic City at Resorts Casino Hotel Atlantic City. And then it was 6 days later, the Friday night that followed at Mohegan Sun. And oh my gosh, both shows were just high energy, 3 hours long. I mean, and nobody wanted it to end. It's just fantastic. Welcome to Hurley in the Morning. You're on the air.
Good morning, Harry. It's a great day in the city of Brigantine. Out for my daily 3-mile morning constitutional. No wind. Lovely day.
Wonderful. Good stuff.
By the way, one thing I'll say about Tony Orlando, he don't love you like I love you.
Da-dum-dum.
Ba-dum-bum. So my never-ending quest to use the Democrats' own words against them. Barack Obama famously said, I believe America works best when everyone gets a fair shot, when everyone pays their fair share, and when everyone plays by the same set of rules. And here we go again with the college loans. Now, I'm playing by the rules. I took out a loan, home equity loan, instead of a mortgage, and I'm working my butt off, humping people up and down the East Coast at all hours of the day and night to pay this thing off and to try to pay it off in half the time.
Right. You're not asking other taxpayers to pay a loan that you took out.
No. Now, you're telling people, you're lecturing people about not paying their fair share, but then you're telling other people that they don't have to pay their fair share. And you're going to take from the people who are paying their fair share and give it to the people who are not paying their fair share. But that's Obama again when he told Joe the plumber, I believe when you spread the wealth around, it's good for everybody.
Right. You didn't build that. So when you build your business, you didn't build that. He tried to build the case that government built that. I mean, these are sick people. The other thing that's terrible about that, say you made a decision that, you know what I'm going to do? I'm not going to go to college. I'm going to go to the Atlantic County Institute of Technology. I'm going to learn a trade. I'm going to get certified in that trade, whether to become a master plumber, or whatever, elite, master carpenter, whatever. And that's the path that you chose. Meanwhile, others get to go to college, and you're now paying for their college loans. Nothing about that is equitable.
No, you're essentially supplementing their lifestyle, which is the same thing you do when you give money to drug addicts and give them a place to shoot up.
Right. And by the way, I'm not against like philosophy and stuff like that, but you have some of these folks, they're getting these degrees that are of no use at all, that don't qualify them for anything. And then meanwhile, they might have $100,000, $200,000, $250,000 in debt, whatever, because they're taking out for the books, for their food, for laptops, for books, for the coursework itself, the tuition. And next thing you know, it's $250,000, and they want somebody else to pay it off.
It's interesting that they always bitch and complain about student loan debt, but they never bitch and complain about the bloated administrations of these colleges, these tenured professors who are making hundreds of thousands of dollars for showing up 2 days a week in a classroom. They don't talk about the high cost of tuition. It's always the student debt. Well, maybe if colleges were more affordable, you wouldn't have this student debt. But
Chuck and I have talked about it a lot on Tuesday mornings for many, many decades. We didn't just start talking about this now that it's, in vogue. The whole model of what it costs to go to college is to feed their beast, their salaries, the amount of bureaucracy that they have, all the different, hierarchy positions, and all of it. And it's a shame because teaching is a very important, I want to even say noble profession. But what really started to happen, though, it became a Democratic partisan corporation, that's loyal to the collective, to the Democrat Party, and they're destroying it before our eyes.
Well, I think the college and university system in this country is basically another branch of the federal government. It's really what it is. It operates that way. All right, so on to another topic.
Yeah.
Joe Biden was outraged and heartbroken about the aid workers that were killed in Gaza accidentally.
Yes.
He never said he was outraged and heartbroken by the death of Officer Diller, who was killed on purpose in New York City, or Laken Riley.
Yeah. Hey, for that matter, I didn't hear him being upset and broken and all these things that he is over the aid workers. And look, it's terrible what happened to them. No problem with the words, except he's not consistent with it. When the 13 American soldiers died, he had less to say than he did these 8 volunteer aid workers.
That was the next thing I was going to say.
Okay.
Now, would you say, Harry, would you say that people who are out there pro-Hamas, protesting pro-Hamas, would you take a next step and say that they were Nazis, those people?
I don't like to call people that, but I would definitely say they're anti-American.
Now, okay, but look at what they're advocating for. Now, look at this.
I understand.
Yeah, you've got the Squad and other Democrats and other media types. When they defend these people, aren't they essentially saying that there are some very fine people on both sides?
I love what you're saying, and they're always dripping with duplicity and hypocrisy. What I do, and I think you know me for a long time, Andy. I know you have actually. I've never compared anyone to Hitler, and I don't compare them to Nazis. I've never seen that be a winning formula, a winning philosophy. But I will call them what they are. Hamas, they are terrorists, and so on and so forth. But I've stayed shy away from, like Bush was Hitler, and, Trump is Hitler. Everybody's Hitler, to the Democrats. And no, they're not. Let's have some proportionality here, and take a look. You're very ignorant about history. If you think that you can compare George W. Bush and then Donald Trump to Hitler based on the record we know, thank God that General Eisenhower made sure we documented the record properly. He said, quote unquote, General, do you want us to document this? And his answer was yes, because some bastard's going to come along and say that this never happened, which Democrats are usually pretty good about that kind of stuff.
Well, Harry, I agree with you on the Hitler comparisons, but the reason I mentioned it was to go back to the beginning of my conversation where I say that the Republicans need to use their own words against them. So when President Trump gets up to speak, the next time they call him Hitler, what he should say, and as only he can say it, he should say, you've got people marching in the streets defending Hamas, whose goal is to kill Jews, the genocide of Jews, and they've already done it.
Yep.
Okay, on October 7th.
Yep.
And they have the nerve to call me Hitler? That's what he should say.
He should say that. And I'll tell you another thing you should start doing with great regularity. Obama's right arm, David Axelrod, said that Biden shouldn't even be running for president. David Axelrod, Obama's right arm, also said that it, quote, drives me crazy when Biden attempts to tout that the U.S. economy is strong. I would use all of them to also give it to Biden, because it's one thing the media can report Republicans say that President Biden is this, and this. Start quoting Democrats.
Yeah, well, I would think by now David Axelrod needs to hire someone to taste his corned beef sandwiches and to start his Mercedes-Benz. Because
well, he was called a word that rhymes with Rick and begins with P by Biden. That's documented.
Well, didn't Biden call Netanyahu an a-hole?
Yes, he did.
Okay, so now here's one more for you. How is it that Biden, and you know, Harry, again, it's not him, this college stuff and all. If Biden was shot down by the Supreme Court the first time when he tried to do this, the Biden that we know would have, okay, I'm not allowed to do it. This is not Biden. But anyway, so Biden shook down Ukraine and said, if you don't fire the prosecutor, then you're not getting $1 billion. So now here he is telling Netanyahu, if you don't conduct your war the way I tell you, you're not getting any more aid.
Yeah, in other words, he specifically told him a ceasefire or you do not get the military aid. And by the way, you just reminded me, and now we have to go to the break too. You just reminded me, Nancy Pelosi is one of 40 Democrats that are against us providing Israel with the weapon aid that we've already promised them. This is how bad these Democrats are. They're horrible.
Final comment, 10 seconds. How is it that Biden believes that he has the right to tell Netanyahu how to spend the money that we give him, but he doesn't do that with Zelensky or the illegals? He just keeps giving them money, and they can spend it however they want.
Yeah, I love it. I love it when you point out these undeniables. To quote Ed McMahon, you, sir, are correct. Andy, thank you. When we come back from the break, you will join the program next. And Dan, you'll be right after that. Please don't go away. It is the one and the only Hurley in the Morning program in year 32. Close to closing out year 32. See, our year, I feel like government. Our year starts on July 1st. Oh, my gosh. I can't believe I just said that. But it's true. Most budgets begin on January 1st, except in government. It begins on July 1st. Boards of education and such. Why? I mean, I kind of understand July 1st with boards of education because the school year ends in mid to late June. July 1st starts a new school year. I kind of understand that. But anyhow, yeah, July 1st is our anniversary as well.
This is the Town Square, New Jersey Info and Weather Network.
And we have a bonus. I usually give you 3. I'm now going to give you 4 stories that you can follow right now on the WPG Talk Radio 95.5 app. 2 articles about this so-called Atlantic City rally for Marty and LaQuetta Small and Constance Days Chapman. Clergy and you other leaders that hook, line, and stinker are supporting this. You will be on the wrong side of history, and you won't have to wait long. My prediction. Atlantic City School has asbestos, but they didn't tell the parents or the teachers or the students. No problem there, and congratulations.
Great.
From the Town Square, New Jersey Info and Weather Network, I'm Chief Meteorologist Dan Zarrow. The best place in the country to watch today's solar eclipse is Maine. Clear skies and a view of totality this afternoon. Here in South Jersey, nice bright morning, but we will see some pesky clouds fill in through the afternoon. Even a chance of a late day sprinkle. Fairly warm with a high of 63. Partly cloudy tonight, low of 50. Mostly cloudy and 70 tomorrow. For the most up-to-date forecasts and exclusive weather content, be sure to grab our station app today.
Are you feeling trapped?
You're waking up with Hurley in the Morning. WPG Talk Radio 95.5. You're waking up with Hurley in the morning.
Makes me think about things a little bit differently.
WPG Talk Radio 95.5.
Thank you. Welcome back. 36 minutes past the hour on the Hurley in the Morning program, where we welcome you, and you're on the air. Go.
Good morning, Harry.
Good morning.
Hey, I heard you talking to a man named Paul some time ago. Paul and I are friends, and we lost contact during COVID. Could you help get my phone number to Paul?
I'm trying to remember which Paul, though. Do you know the last name of the Paul that you're talking about?
Yes, I do.
Well, tell me.
Paul Andrews.
Oh, yeah. Hold on. This will be very simple. All right, I have taken you off the air. Give me your number, and I will get it to Paul. 609. Yep. Got it. Hold on, I'll say goodbye on the air. I will get your number to Paul, okay? I will message him on social media where I know that the two of us have an open thread right now. So we'll get you guys back in touch.
Thank you.
By the way, is your first name William?
Yes.
Okay. See, I'm clairvoyant. No, I actually no. I'll get it to Paul, William. You have a great day. Okay. Take care.
Okay. Thank you very much.
I know. I'll pocket Kreskin. You can ask Kreskin himself. He has sanctioned it. Hold on now. Let me write my note so I don't forget to do this. Okay. I am a human Rolodex. I have often maintained that, so this is just in keeping with that important duty that I consider a part of my oath. Welcome to Hurley in the Morning. Dan, welcome. Glad you're here. Good morning.
Mayor, I may need a minute or two on this one.
You got it.
Combined employees of the State Department, 240 countries. How about 72,000?
Yeah, that's not bad, right? We just break that out. You know, that's thousands. If you just said Dan and Harry and 500 more, you're in this country. I mean, you could really blanket the world, right? You could really do a job, but we know how they do it, though. Nothing about it is efficient. It's a cesspool of Democrat slop and corruption. So the number sounds huge, but I guarantee you, if you really went in there with true business acumen and you started to evaluate what I used to have to achieve, and that's a certain number of what were called 40-hour equivalents. And if you went into that, can you imagine the inefficiencies that we would find, Dan?
You're leading me on to my next point here, but before I hit that one, I'm going to go quick on Judge Marchand. His daughter is not just a player. She's a major player, $93 million.
Totally agree.
So in a corporation, she would be like the CFO or something. She's up on the top tier, and you can't talk about her. How's that work?
It's awful. And yeah, right. You gag Trump, and then they're not gagged. Look, him and the things he has been doing, and his daughter and her relationship with the Democrat Party, and as you mentioned, raising more than $90 million. He should not even be on the case. But they're on the case on purpose.
Well, I'd love to expand on that, but I want to get to my final point, which is going to be a few minutes. It's my cabinet, and I hope the listeners will get involved. I'll just give you a couple of my picks. I would create basically a payback where the guys you're going to put in are going to get back 20 times the money. I would put Chip Roy and Congressman Higgins in working with Treasury Department, fraud, theft, corruption, and waste. How much could those two guys get back?
Oh, they would be fantastic. I think that's a really good idea. Let me get a sidebar with you before you go to your next cabinet person. Who do you like as President Trump's vice president?
Christie.
Nah, I can't believe you said that. But
well, she's an executive.
Whoa! Stand corrected. You said Christie. I thought you meant Chris Christie. I'm not being a wise guy. You mean Kristi Noem. I could live with that in a heartbeat. She's in there. I think, I swear, I think I can narrow it to 3 people. You want to hear my 3 that I think it's going to be?
I do.
And this will be a Pocket Kreskin moment, brought to you by Pocket Kreskin. It will either be, and I'm going to put it in this order, and I'm very torn between 1 and 2. But I'll say Ben Carson, Tim Scott, Kristi Noem. 4th would be Tulsi Gabbard. Again, it's not my top 4. I'm saying that one of these top 4 will be the vice president. What do you think?
Wonderful choices.
Yeah, I could live with them all.
Okay, I'll start with my cabinet. Okay. I'm going to go with Kristi Noem, vice president.
Okay.
And give her the duties. Like, she'll oversee agriculture. She'll help in that department, interior, because she has those skills. Number 1, and I think one of the most important ones, is Governor Burgum as energy secretary.
Oh, I think he's definitely going to have a place in the cabinet. That would be a vintage Trump appointment. Like a what was that guy's name? Rex Tillerson, picking real business people. That it's a sacrifice for them. That the $187,000 or whatever they make is like a joke. The problem is you get a guy like Pete Buttigieg, and he's making $187,000, and it's the biggest paycheck he's ever had.
Yeah, you didn't get that overseeing those parking meters, that's for sure.
No, he didn't, or filling potholes.
Okay, let's move on to my Secretary of State. Is going to be Byron Donalds, because he's articulate and he's strong.
Terrific. He's definitely going to get a spot. I don't know for sure that he gets a cabinet level spot, but at worst it would be like an undersecretary, 1 down below that. But he's definitely in the running for a cabinet level spot.
I would, as my Secretary of Defense, I would kiss and make up and have the best man for the job possible, Mike Pompeo, in his correct role.
You know what the shame of it is? They could have partnered again. It would not be as vice president, because that just went too far. But Pence recently came out and said he's not voting for Trump. How do you appoint someone that was your vice president for 4 years that tells the country and the world they're not even voting for you? They can't endorse you. I don't think he can be picked for anything, Dan.
There's no place for him.
No.
And okay, so we'll move on to head of the FBI. We need a house cleaner, somebody who's been in public service as far as being in the military for 22 years, all business. That would be Tulsi.
She would be fantastic. That would be better than picking her for VP. That would be great. I'll give you some others that would be good. Jason Chaffetz. He would be fantastic. I would have said in a prior life iteration, Trey Gowdy, but a little too sort of corporate, politically correct. I would say no to him at this point, but there would have been a time I would have said yes to him. But yeah, Tulsi Gabbard, really good. Really good.
And my my chief of staff, and also be the overseer of pharma and health, would be not the Secretary of Health, but he would be the overseer. Would be Ben Carson. He would run the show in the White House.
Yeah, the problem's going to be he's going to be vice president, though. So, no, I'm just teasing. So it's all good, man. Let me get the break in. Dan, good stuff. I don't really split hairs with anything that you said. It was all good, except for Pence. But then you took him out. To be continued, my friend. Have a great day. When we come back from the break, you will join the program next. Just hang in there for a couple of minutes. It's a short break. We'll be right back. More of the Hurley in the Morning program on WPG Talk Radio 95.5. This portion of Hurley in the Morning brought to us in part by the Cape Resorts properties. So you're talking about Congress Hall. You're talking about the Virginia Hotel. You're talking about Beach Plum Farm in West Cape May. And they are doing something very, very cool. They're going to revel in the magic of celestial celebrations. You can be part of a new series of farm-to-table dinners under the full moon. So this is a full moon dinner date calendar of events. Tuesday, April 23rd, right around the corner, a couple of weeks away, the Pink Moon Dinner. Thursday, May 23rd, Flower Moon Dinner. Friday, June 21st, Strawberry Moon Dinner. Sunday, July 21st, Buck Moon Dinner. Monday, August 19th, Sturgeon Moon Dinner. Tuesday, September 17th, Harvest Moon Dinner. A great day. Thursday, October 17th. That will be Margie's 43rd wedding anniversary. That's the Hunter Moon Dinner. And Friday, November 15th, the Beaver Moon Dinner. Farm dinners are for guests 21 and older. The Moon Dinner, they cost $225 per person, and reservations are required, but you've got a whole bunch of inclusions with that. It's really a great deal. It includes adult beverages paired with your dinner. Beach Plum Farm is located at 140 Stevens Street in West Cape May. You can visit Beach Plum Farm, capemay.com. We'll be back. And you know who's next. We told you on the Hurley in the Morning program.
The WPG Talk Radio app is everything South Jersey on your phone and in your car through Apple CarPlay and Android Auto. Local news, weather, and information updated around the clock from New Jersey's largest radio news team. Easy access to WPG podcasts and more. Powered by Smokers Haven. You'll find the finest selection of cigars at any of their 5 locations. Stop in and let them help you find the perfect cigar to pair with your life. Visit SmokersHavenNJ.com. You're listening to Hurley in the Morning.
We live in a society where everybody is offended.
WPG Talk Radio 95.5, South Jersey's talk station.
Hey, thanks. Welcome back. To guest listener Dan, I realized during the break that you said Pompeo. You didn't say Pence. You said Pompeo. Now, here's my take on Pompeo. When he was Secretary of State, he used to be CIA director, he was terrific. But you know what he did? He did something stupid. You could see when he lost all that weight, he was trying to be president, and it just was never going to be. So he went a little bit, he didn't go as far as others, but he went a little bit anti-Trump. And I wouldn't pick him for anything big. He's groveling and begging. I think even in setup interviews where they say, oh, if you were offered vice president, would you take it? Well, it's a great honor. And if a president offers you to be vice president, you have to seriously, hey, shut up. You take it, pal. No one in the history of the world, no one in American history has ever turned down when they're asked to be the vice president. No one has turned it down. 0 givebacks. So anyhow, I said Pence because I thought I heard Dan say Pence, but he said Pompeo. So my answer to a listener that wrote me about Pompeo, I put Pompeo is out. I said that he's currently begging and groveling to try to get back in. He went anti-Trump. Not as bad as others did, but it's a shame because he was excellent. But I wouldn't give him Secretary of State. I wouldn't give him FBI. I wouldn't give him CIA. I would give him Zippo. He crossed the line, in my opinion. Not as bad as others, but I think he crossed the line. 609-407-1415, open phone line. Welcome to Hurley in the Morning. You're on the air.
Mr. Hurley, good morning.
Good morning.
VP, possibilities, Cruz, Mike Huckabee's daughter, or Ben Carson?
Well, Sarah Huckabee Sanders is one of my favorites for VP. Great governor, but she would be great, and I think she's going to be a future president regardless. I think she's going to be the Republican nominee in 4 years. That's even if Trump doesn't pick her to be VP. Now, if he picks somebody like Ben Carson and he's great, or any number of the others, certainly that VP would have a leg up, but you never know. You never know how that's going to go. Ted Cruz, I believe, is going to be in the cabinet. I think with the way Texas is changing and he's in these death matches, including this year, all the time. I think he's sick of it. But, of course, he'll win. Trump's going to carry Texas, and Cruz will win as well. And then he would have 6 more years, so you never know what he'd want to do at that point. But I think Cruz winds up in the cabinet, but not as VP. Sarah Huckabee Sanders is someone that I have talked about before. I would love to see her on the shortest of short lists. I think she would be amazing. And I think there's a very, almost even money chance that Ben Carson might be the vice presidential running mate.
Very strong people.
Yeah. Look at the difference. You got this this clown that we have that was saying, hey, I'd like to teach you something that you don't know. It wasn't until 2012 that women had brackets in the NCAA tournament. And I'm thinking, what are you, crazy? I can remember at least 40 years worth, more than 40 years worth. I'll tell you, we have the dumbest vice president in the history of America.
You're very volume about it.
Terrible. All right, let me get in one more call before we run out of time here. Loved your list. All good. Haven't heard one yet between what Dan was saying in all the positions that he said, because I misheard Pence. He said Pompeo. Look, if Pompeo got picked for something, I'm not a Pompeo hater. His pedigree, member of Congress, CIA, Secretary of State, he's utterly brilliant. And he would be fantastic. I just didn't like how he handled himself when he ran his little secret squirrel Mighty Mouse campaign for president. I didn't think it was smart. Welcome to Hurley in the Morning. You're on the air.
Good morning.
Good morning to you.
What do you think about, I hear on the different people talking that Hillary Clinton will be the nominee, Biden will be out, and Kennedy will be his vice president. I'm going to listen off the air.
Okay, thanks. Wow. No to all that. Hillary will not be the nominee. Biden is going to be the nominee. And she's terrible, but Harris will be the VP running mate. So that answers that. Absolutely. And zero chance. I mean, now I know you're saying that this would be under the scenario where Joe Biden wouldn't even be the nominee for president. Joe Biden won't even give Robert F. Kennedy Jr. Secret Service protection. The Democrats hate him. They believe he's going to cost Biden a second term or any chance at a second term. And let's say this. Let's just say Joe Biden shaking hands with the air and pointing every which way, like, where do I go? Who am I? He's like Admiral Stockdale, what's my name and why am I here? It's terrible. And just say that it became self-evident and that he couldn't do it and the superdelegates got together and they picked another nominee. It will not be Hillary Clinton. Guaranteed. They don't like her. She ran and lost. And she ran and lost to Trump. And then Trump went on to do a really good job. So they picked Trump as just a businessman on a wing and a prayer, hoping that he would do half of what he said. Then he went and did more than what he said he would do. So, yeah, definitely no to the Hillary thing. She's a turnoff, really, for both sides. What I used to say, but she apparently does not want it. So unless she took it under the most reluctant of warrior terms, it's more likely that someone like Michelle Obama could have it if she wanted it. But apparently she doesn't want it. One thing I will say, and it's pretty pathetic, the Democrats have no bench strength. Then you think about it. Pothole Pete would be a presidential candidate and was, in fact, in the past. Look at that lineup of misfits that they had, to where really all they could do is pick Joe Biden, who never got more than 1% ever running for president. Think about that. And by the way, 1% Joe with Democrats. On the Republican side, you have Trump, you have Kristi Noem, you have Ben Carson, you have so many people. Ted Cruz definitely is upper tier, warranting a comment and inclusion. Sarah Huckabee Sanders that we talked about with the gentleman caller 1 or 2 calls ago. And the bench strength doesn't end there. I'm telling you, he was a terrible presidential candidate this time. Ron DeSantis has a phenomenal record as governor. He turned Florida from a purple state to a solid red state. All these problems that you see around the country, he keeps fixing every one of them. Great governor, great chief executive officer, was just a terrible candidate for reasons I still don't understand. I just don't get it. Maybe by being a Trump protege and then running against him, there's got to be a reason. But I don't think he would be. I think he would be a good candidate in 4 years. He says, I don't know, it's 4 years away. I'm working on being governor, getting as much done here. I think he runs again. But your Democrat scenario, and I know it's not yours, no way, no how to all of it.
WPGG Atlantic City, WENJ HD3 Millville, a Town Square media station. Everything you need to know in 6 minutes starts now. From Harry Hurley Way in the world's playground to the broadcast pioneers of Philadelphia Hall of Fame, you're about to find out why Harry Hurley has been named to the Talkers Magazine list of the 100 most important talk show hosts in the nation. Live from the studios of Town Square Media in Northfield, it's Hurley in the Morning on WPG Talk Radio 95.5 and the WPG Talk Radio app.
All right, full disclosure, I efforted mightily. I was unable to reach Mayor Kane to make the switch. I tried to make the switch from his usual 9 o'clock to 8 o'clock because we have Tony Orlando today at 9:05, and I had to make the switch because Tony is in a different time zone, so I had to give him the latest possible time that we had today, and I think you're really going to enjoy. Oh, hold on a second. Hold on. Somebody sent me something. I got to see if I have to help them with this. Just making sure. What I'm saying is bonus, unadvertised, blue plate special, open forum. But I want to slip in. This is going to tell me a lot. If I generate crickets, because usually if I don't even put a topic out, phone lines go bananas, meaning you call in 609-407-1450, and I hope you'll do it this hour. I need you to be the wind behind my back for this hour, and then together we will enjoy the very listenable, very beautiful. You'll if you'd never heard Tony Orlando in a long-form interview, he is one of the kindest, most decent people. Forget famous and 64 years, in the business and all that stuff. Truly one of the most grounded, beautiful people. And yes, he is a member of the FFL Club, Friends for Life. Somebody that I'm picking up some things for. It was going to be a very little list. It's getting bigger. Keep sending me your list. I'll be your delivery boy. The list is getting large for me to take care of. That's okay. I'll do it. All right, so 609-407-1450. Let's see if I said to a friend of mine at about 3 o'clock this morning, on a scale of 1 to 10, how excited are you about today's total solar eclipse? New Jersey is actually listed as a partial solar eclipse, but I'm telling you, if you look at the map, it's parts of New Jersey are nearly the whole deal. I mean, you barely see a speckle of the yellow of the sun. So the moon is going to jump in the path of the sun, and it's not going to happen again. There will not be another in America, because keep in mind, it's different around the world, but in America, there will not be another total solar eclipse until the year 2044. I have a list somewhere in my H phone of the next 4 times. Some of it is well beyond where most of us will even be here for it. But I asked this friend, on a scale of 1 to 10, how much do you care about this total solar eclipse? I will tell you, he wasn't that jazzed up about it. Some people, it's pinch me, and others don't really care. The peak in the Eastern Standard Daylight Savings Time now, Eastern time zone, is 3:13 p.m. in Cleveland. I think that's because Cleveland rocks. If you get the reference there. 609-407-1450. Phone lines are open about whatever you want to talk about. Welcome to Hurley in the Morning. Glad you called in. You're on the air.
This is Hurley?
Speaking.
This is Greg and App speaking again.
Yeah.
I had two items. And it's very unfortunate what took place in Israel, the death of the individuals. It would be ironical if they were being leadership of Hamas that were getting out of town, and it was an unfortunate occurrence where the people that were supposed to be there were taken, held somewhere, and they were trying to get rid of their leadership, and they met their demise.
Well, here, yeah, I don't know exactly what happened here, except I do know this. Hamas lies about everything. Remember when they said Israel bombed the hospital and all of that, and they didn't bomb the hospital at all. These innocent aid workers, 7 or 8, I forget which it is, they did get blown up. They did get killed. And it was a mistake. And, we could talk all day about how, Hamas set them up. Hamas probably put them there, is what you're saying, and to get blown up. So then they can say Israel's killing innocents, when really Hamas, everything they've done has been about killing innocents. Everything Israel has done is to try to kill Hamas and not kill a single innocent person. But look, I think a hostage has been killed, innocently, because, it's war and, bad things happen, not that aren't on purpose. But that's the challenge of being Israel. They're trying to take out their terrorist enemy without taking out any innocents. Hamas, on the other hand, they don't have any such restrictions.
Exactly. The one other thing.
Yeah.
And I think it's something that the current administration didn't give any consideration to it, nor do they understand it. I went through a freeze back when I was a buyer in Philadelphia, a price freeze because of inflation, a serious freeze. Everything had to be submitted via the company to Washington, where it was all authenticated at what price it was at that time, both what you were receiving and what you were selling. Manufacturers couldn't increase the price. We as retailers couldn't increase the price. It was frozen.
Yep.
That's why it's out of control here now. Nothing like that has even been discussed. And it's going to continue. It's going to continue to go crazy because it increases exponentially.
Well, yes, it does. And thank you for the call. I've got to run. We're going to get the break in. If you want to join us, the phone lines are wide open at 609. Bonus open for them. 609-407-1450, about 45, 50 minutes away from the legendary Tony Orlando in a Hurley in the Morning exclusive, a very significant member of the Friends for Life, FFL club, created by one Tom Cantone. Known members are Tom Cantone, yours truly, Mark Giantonio, and Tony Orlando. I mean, it's an exclusive club. I honestly don't know what you have to do. There is a president, there is a chairman, there is a vice president. I mean, there is a way to get in, because obviously 4 people did, but it's rarefied stuff. When we come back, Dateline Atlantic City, You won't be surprised by this. This is unfortunately sort of standard operating procedure, but we'll update you on something that's going on that neither parents nor teachers nor students, still they haven't been told about it, even after we did what we did yesterday in the late afternoon, early evening, in terms of breaking the news. We'll give you all the details when we come back. Don't go away. Dateline, Atlantic City next on the Hurley in the Morning program. I think what you just, if a small is in charge of it, you can pretty much, I guess, come to the conclusion that it's not going to be smooth. I mean, it's just an observation. I don't think anybody can say that the Atlantic City public school system is particularly well run. And I don't hear anybody except Marty Small saying that the city of Atlantic City is well run. Thankfully, some of his ill effects and bad management can be sort of window dressed over by the fact that the casino industry is so strong in terms of competence and others that can fill the vacuum to sort of block out some of the absolute crazy that's in effect right now. We'll be back. Don't go away.
You're listening to Hurley in the Morning.
Under President Biden, America has laid out a welcome mat to illegal immigrants, smugglers, and cartels.
WPG Talk Radio 95.5.
The border issues are out of control.
South Jersey's talk station. You're waking up with Hurley in the Morning.
I'm looking for trustworthy news.
WPG Talk Radio 95.5.
And we are back. It's 20 minutes past the hour. And this is interesting. Talk about there's always, when you're dealing with these unscrupulous Atlantic City people, there's always a twist. I can't explain it. It's like one of those nighttime soap operas, Knots Landing or Dallas or something, and you don't know what's happening. Cliff might do something. JR might do something. What was the one? Mary Alice or Mary Sue or whatever her name was, or Mary Ellen. I don't know what it was, but you just never know. There's always a twist. So let me tell you what I learned, and this is directly from people with direct knowledge to the situation. Every door, and I have video evidence of it. I have still photography evidence of it. Every door had a sign that read, "Danger, asbestos, may cause cancer, causes damage to lungs, authorized personnel only, wear respiratory protection and protective clothing in this area." Now, these were taped on the doors, and I have the video and the, hold on, let me tell Charlie, we'll catch up. No problem. We'll catch up next week. No problem. The mayor is, that's why he was driving. He's at an auction. We'll catch up next time. All good. All good. All right, so let me get back to this. Thanks, Mayor. Danger signs, asbestos may cause cancer, causes damage to lungs, authorized personnel only, wear respiratory protection and protective clothing in this area. And they were taped with red tape to every door. And again, I have video evidence and I have still photography evidence to prove this. Now I receive a communication this morning that those signs are down and in their place are some kind of stop signs. So they're, it's, I guess, a softer version of don't enter. And then there are words below it. This individual is not sure what's below it, but we should, within the next 10 minutes or so, 15 minutes probably tops, I should be able to tell you exactly what the signs say now. But let me share with you what our immaculate, well-placed sources have told us. And it's an all too familiar pattern in Atlantic City, whether it's the city of Atlantic City or the Atlantic City public school system. Both of these public entities are notorious for poor communication skills with staff, if it's the school system, with parents, and with the public. The Texas Avenue School in Atlantic City is an important kindergarten through 8th grade public school with a population of about 500 students. Presently, the school is closed for the spring break. It's scheduled to reopen this Wednesday. And then we published photographs of what was posted on the doors. Parents and teachers are now just becoming aware of this through their own word of mouth because the Atlantic City Public School System has not communicated a single word to parents or teachers, we have been told. They didn't know that there's any asbestos issue at the Texas Avenue School. That's not right. That's not how you should do things. Now, we know Atlantic City Superintendent of Public Schools, LaQuetta Small, is currently dealing with a very serious alleged child abuse scandal involving the Atlantic City High School principal, Constance Days Chapman, who's facing multiple criminal charges from the Atlantic County Prosecutor's Office. Staff members are concerned about potential retaliation from the Smalls. As such, they only spoke with me on the condition that their identities not be revealed. Here's one of the communications that we received yesterday. Quote, "We go back to school on the 10th. However, a couple of people drove by our school and every door is posted with dangerous, do not go in, can cause cancer and lung issues. Asbestos is found in the building." This is a quote now. "We have not received one phone call, not one email, nor of the parents. We are all afraid for our lives and our health and the children's health. Not one administrator has sent out a robocall or email. No one. We are in the dark," said one concerned Texas Avenue school staff member. So I went to the Board of Education website, and then in particular, I went to the Texas Avenue School section because I in any normal world, that should be at the top of the thing, that during the break we found asbestos, or we took the time during the break to deal with an abatement issue or whatever. I'm just making up. Whatever it is, they have posted that there's a danger, asbestos danger. So there's something they could have told parents, staff members. And remember, they have this system. John Devlin could tell you all about it, that with the push of a button, they could send a text message to every single parent in the school system. And I don't even think that would have been a bad idea. Hey, you might not go to this school. Your children might not go to this school, but we just want to let everybody know, because what are they going to do with 500 students unless they fix this asbestos issue? But the thing was posted yesterday, so they better hurry if it's going to be ready for Wednesday. So I went to the website, nothing. Went to the Texas Avenue School webpage section, nothing. But I did read a philosophy that I thought was terrific that is posted on the Texas Avenue School webpage. The Texas Avenue School community provides a safe and nurturing environment to produce exceptionally prepared students who possess the skills to succeed in college and career paths. With that goal in mind, we promote academic excellence, creative thinking, problem solving, mutual respect, and ethical understanding, period, end quote. So I continue in my report to say, that sounds great. I love that. That mission statement, they should make that famous. I think it's fantastic. But let's be honest. They, as a school district, LaQuetta Small and Company are certainly falling short on this occasion. Students, teachers, and Texas Avenue School administrators are due back to school in just a few days. It is incumbent upon the Small administration to properly communicate to parents, students, and teachers. They should do that at all times. Here is some basic information that we include if you go to our published report about if you ever find a sign like that at your place of employ. There is OSHA regulations and workers' rights and things like that. So that's where that stands. And as soon as our source is taking the picture, hold on, helping somebody with another problem. As soon as our source sends the picture, we will tell you that hours ago, the red taped asbestos danger Will Robinson signs were posted. And now, what do you know? Now they're something different, we've been told. Now, we have one source. I always like to have two sources. The one source I have is a very upstanding leader in the community. This is someone that has run for public office in Atlantic City, pretty well known. And I've known him since he was a child. So he tells me that it's a stop sign now with words beneath it, but he couldn't see it. They were too small as he drove by. I can tell you that's not, the sign had no stop sign in it. It was a danger asbestos sign, and they didn't tell anyone about it, according to the staff that have communicated to me. They didn't tell anyone about it. Teachers, students, parents, no one knew about this until we reported it. And now the signs are different. What was wrong with the signs yesterday that they're different today? Was this like an evolution? No, it's not asbestos now. Now it's a stop sign. It's the stop sign dilemma that we're combating against now. Stay tuned. Today by lunchtime, it'll be a third version.
This is the Town Square, New Jersey Info and Weather Network.
Going to give you a bonus fourth story. I usually give you 3 stories, 4 stories you can follow right now on the WPG Talk Radio 95.5 app. I've written 2 articles since we were last together about this so-called Atlantic City rally in support of Marty and LaQuetta Small and Constance Days Chapman. My belief, and I don't think we're going to have to wait long for this, is that the clergy and other leaders who are getting behind this are going to be on the wrong side of history. Time will tell. Atlantic City School has an asbestos issue, or so the sign says, or it used to.
From the Town Square, New Jersey Info and Weather Network, I'm Chief Meteorologist Dan Zarrow. Happy Solar Eclipse Day. Don't look up yet. The eclipse doesn't start until about 2 o'clock this afternoon. Not a perfect weather forecast today as scattered clouds will build in, but there will be some breaks along the way. Chance of a late day shower, fairly warm, high 63 degrees. Partly cloudy and comfortably cool tonight, low of 50. Mostly cloudy and dry tomorrow, our high reaches for 70. Get weather 24/7 wherever you are. Download our free mobile app today.
This is an important safety.
Starting your day the right way with Hurley in the Morning. WPG Talk Radio 95.5 and the WPG Talk Radio app. Starting your day the right way with Hurley in the Morning.
We need to just listen to the facts.
WPG Talk Radio 95.5.
Thank you. Welcome back. 34 minutes past the hour. I was just sharing with a friend of mine, hey, there's no asbestos problem. You know, you would have to love being able to exist like that, right? You put up asbestos signs, then someone calls you out for the asbestos signs because staff members are saying you didn't communicate with anybody, parents, teachers, administrators, students, and then you just take them down. So that's just a great way to operate. Oops, we've been caught, so we'll take them down. Now they're evidently stop signs of some kind. And let's see if my source has not come through yet, but they're en route. They're en route. One of my favorite text messages this morning is from guest listener Eric, and he followed up. I was doing a monologue on the eclipse, and in a lot of New Jersey, it's almost the total eclipse. And a good portion of the country, like 100 million people, I think, are going to be within what is being called a total eclipse. But even ones that are being called a partial eclipse, it's almost a total eclipse. Very, very, like New Jersey, very, very close. So I was talking about how, you can't look at it because the eye damage is said to be significant. So you have these glasses, or you can build one of your little pinhole projectors out of a cereal box or really anything, and then you can look at it. But I just always side on caution. It's just my nature. So I mentioned about not looking at it without the proper glasses, or they have lenses for binoculars and for telescopes and things like that. Eric writes, animals are smarter than humans. They don't look at the sun. One thing I will tell you, evidently the birds will be very unnerved by this eclipse, and it said that the birds will be acting oddly. So we'll see. They're not going to be carrying signs, hey, we're odd, until this stops. Make it stop in 4 minutes and we won't be odd anymore. But evidently, the birds will be acting a bit strange. Back to your call, 609-407-1450, an open phone line. Welcome to Hurley in the Morning. You're on the air.
Well, good early morning. How are you, Harry?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm terrific. I sent you a little text this morning about the 1.1 some odd million that nationals that Biden wants to give voting rights to.
Yeah, why not?
Why not? I mean, that's 10%.
That's the whole plan. You're going to wish for the day when it was 1.5 million. He's probably allowed 12 million, and we'll have another million before Election Day. Probably more. They'll cop to less. And I mean, look what they're doing. They how about this one? They flew in over 320,000 illegals to Florida. Didn't even tell them. Think about how dirty this administration is. They flew in 320,000 people. They're not investigated. Nobody knows who they are, and they just drop them in the state of Florida. This is what this is coming to.
Well, Harry, did you hear what was in the luggage bins?
What's in the luggage
Those
bins?
Credit cards, $300 a week.
Oh, well, the credit cards, yeah, that's just the debit, EBT debit cards and other debit cards, and they're free phones. Incidentally, my Atlantic City source has now, I have total clarity on this point. Since my article last night, this is, I got to tell you, this administration is I've covered all of them from USRI to the present. And I'm talking about even with administrations where the mayor went to jail. This is the worst. And it is the worst by far. I would take Frank Gilliam back right now and apologize. Frank, you weren't as bad as I thought you were. I am sorry. I would take him back right now. What do you mean? He went to jail. Yeah, I know. I would take him back over what's there now. It's awful. It is awful. So they take credit for nothing. They take the blame for nothing. They take the credit for everything, even if they have nothing to do with it. If the sun rises, it's a beautiful day. We did it. We did that. Hey, it's raining today. That's not us. So danger asbestos signs are down. Isn't that great, though, that we memorialize this, though? But this is how it works. Don't fix the problem. Just cover it up. Everything will be fine. Craig, back to you.
Well, the draft. It looks like England and Germany are thinking about the draft. Also, in Ukraine, the National Health Organization said, yes, you better get those little labs, all that stuff that actually Russia invaded. Part of the reason why they invaded Ukraine is because of those labs. They said you better clear them out because Russia's coming. And so right now, Harry, and you got China bringing up a fleet into where Israel is. I mean, we got a powder keg moments here.
Well, there's a lot of problems. We have to survive until November 2nd, or November 5th, rather. Then right after the election and the American people fire Joe Biden, he will be in with a very short leash. He can do executive orders and do anything over the top that he tries to do, but it'll be all under the microscope. Trump, will come out once he wins, and he will say, stop everything you're doing. No more executive orders. No more this. No more that. So it's just compartmentalizing. We've got to survive the next 7 months, endure the remaining 3 thereafter, and then thank God. I don't know if you agree, Craig. I can't envision that the American people would want to sign on to more than 4 years more of this. I just don't believe it.
Well, I've actually had several friends that said to me, I'm going to take my retirement and move to Costa Rica.
Well, it's funny you bring up Costa Rica. for 1 or 2 years, and I forget which, because I worked for this particular television company for over 20 years. I did a lot of shows for them. For either 1 or 2 years, I did a show that was 100% about Costa Rica. I learned more than I ever thought I would possibly learn, including the fact that they love Americans there. And it's not far away. And the weather is amazing. A lot of rain at times, but beautiful weather when it's not that. And it usually doesn't rain all day. It's kind of like Florida. It rains every day, but then, but not for most of the day. Costa Rica, and there was a time where Americans, oh my gosh, not only did the dollar go very, very far there, but real estate was what the show was about. It was a real estate show about Americans buying in Costa Rica. And a lot of people I knew were doing that back then. This show I haven't done in a lot of years, 10 or 15 years ago, minimum. And now real estate is really expensive, I've been told. I haven't kept up. Obviously, when you do a show every single week for an hour, you do your homework and your show prep and all. I was very current, but it was a long time ago. But my understanding is now that the price is really expensive. But they love Americans in Costa Rica. And I say that because there's so many spots in the world right now where Americans can be kidnapped, Americans can experience violence and problems.
Well, I'm looking at just one other thing I'm going to bring up. During the course of this week, we learned a lot about the bird flu and how it's affected the poultry farms and some in some states. I think in New Mexico, the cows and actually the beef production in this country. So the price of the eggs may go right back up again.
Well, let me tell you another thing. If you've heard about what Chick-fil-A is doing recently.
Oh, my gosh.
No. And they're not the first. I don't have all of it committed to memory, but there is a certain type of chicken that they didn't use any type of let me get my facts straight on it, but there any type of steroids or any type of anything in it. But now they're changing that standard, and I do believe it has something to do with this whole avian thing that you're talking about. Let me get the break in. Anything in closing that you'd like to share before we go?
Well, you got a great humanitarian coming on, and I appreciate you doing that because there was no better song than tie a ribbon around the yellow oak tree. We should be tying a yellow ribbon around the yellow oak tree so we can get our country back. I'll talk to you, Harry. Have a great day.
Craig, you do the same, my friend. We'll be right back. And I want to refresh my my memory on the article that I read about it. But there is something different. There rather than speculate, let me get it all straight. But I can tell you briefly that Chick-fil-A, which I am a huge fan. I'm a huge fan when they were only in Atlanta. They were nowhere near here in New Jersey. And probably the big mistake I ever made was not opening a Chick-fil-A because that was 100% couldn't miss. It is delicious and people love it. So I'm a fan when I say this. Chick-fil-A had a standard that they were no antibiotics ever. So that's a designation called NAE. Now they're starting in this spring of this year with a new standard, NAIHM, not NAE. I'll explain these acronyms when we come back. It's 45 minutes past the hour on the Hurley in the Morning program.
Hurley in the Morning.
It tends to make me feel a little bit more intelligent.
WPG Talk Radio 95.5. You're waking up with Hurley in the Morning on South Jersey's talk station. WPG Talk Radio 95.5. Hurley in the Morning.
They always have great conversation.
WPG Talk Radio 95.5.
Thank you. Welcome back. It's 10 minutes before the top of the hour. Thrilled to tell you And if you've never heard Tony Orlando, you hear his songs. I love Sirius XM satellite radio, 770s channel. And invariably, anytime I'm on any respectable length of distance that I'm going, a Tony Orlando song comes on, whether it's Tie a Yellow Ribbon, Candida, Knock 3 Times. I mean, it just always happens because they had a period of time in the 70s where they were just hit makers, Tony, Orlando, and Dawn. So if you've heard Tony sing, of course, and maybe back in the day, if you were around at that time, you watched his national network weekly television show, variety show. It was great. If you've never heard Tony Orlando in a long-form interview, you are in for a fabulous treat. By the way, let me just cap off this Atlantic City, Texas Avenue School thing. Definitely, I'm pretty confident they have to communicate with you between now and Wednesday because there were signs on the door that said it's danger, asbestos, and all this stuff, cancer, and all this. Now the signs are down. Who took the signs down? I don't know. But since we wrote the article and we have video and we have still photography to prove it, the signs were on the doors, and now the signs are not on the doors. The one that mentioned to me, the former candidate in Atlantic City that mentioned he saw a stop sign, there is a stop sign of sorts, and our source said that is for the contractors who are working. The only thing I can say about that is I didn't see any stop sign, though, prior to this one being mentioned now to me by two sources. So I don't know if that replaced the other sign or if it's in a different location or if it was underneath the now asbestos signs and then to take the asbestos signs down because they were just taped with red tape. And then that comes down and maybe those other signs are there. I don't know because I haven't seen the stop sign version, but I clearly saw the asbestos signs. So if you're a parent, if you're a student, if you're a faculty member, your school owes you answers. Your superintendent, the principal of the school. I mean, they should have been communicating during the spring break that either they found, I don't know when they found it, if it was abatement going on during the break and they intend to get it done prior to when you go back to school on Wednesday. I don't know. But I know that the people that were finding out about it, that brought it to my attention, they were very understandably concerned about it. Concerned about their health, the health of their children, and so on. So that's the latest on that. There were signs and now there aren't, is what you need to know there. Let me comment briefly, not just as a former basketball official, because I look at the game, I can't even tell you how many hundreds of games I officiated over more than 25 years. Hundreds and hundreds. At the junior league level, city league level, the men's league level, and then, of course, as a certified basketball official for the state of New Jersey, and refereed some of the best teams in the history of New Jersey, St. Anthony's and Canterbury, phenomenal teams that I've been blessed. I refereed Lamar Odom, the future Laker, when he was at Canterbury. I think it was Canterbury. That might have been Lewis Bullock. I can't remember now. But I definitely officiated him. I look at the game differently. Also, too, I worked primarily, although I've done it a few times, two-man crew, not a three-man crew. It's a totally different game with the three-man crew because you have so much less of the court that you're covering. You would hope that would mean a better officiated game. Not always. And you don't want it to be, I know coaches, they prefer two excellent officials as opposed to three-member crews because they felt that, and I agree with them, and it's particularly if it's not a good crew, if it's, average or below. 3-person crews can be over officious. Coaches don't want that. They don't want ticky-tack fouls. They want you to let them play. If disadvantage is gained, they want that called. They don't want like that call that was called in the final 3 seconds. I think it was like 3.9 seconds when they called the player control. Actually, it was an offensive foul. It was not a player control foul. It was an offensive foul for the illegal screen. I thought that was a terrible call. Other people think it was a good call. You let them play. There's 3.9 seconds left in the game. It's a 1-point game. It's like 80-79. And either they're going to make the shot, Connecticut, or they're going to miss the shot. I was always a big fan of players play, let them play. If there's not advantage, disadvantage. I forget who the Connecticut girl was that came whipping around that screen that was called. She was already past. Nobody's talking about this. She was already past that whole point of contact. So the player, and look, I saw the Connecticut player slide a little bit. There was movement. It was not a perfect screen at all. I just don't think you call that with 3.9 seconds left in the game. If there was a definite advantage, disadvantage, you got to call it. Because, then if you called it in the first quarter, you should call it in the fourth quarter. But I thought that was a bad call. My synopsis of yesterday, and what I did was I was switching between the New York Yankees, who I love, and they're off to a great start. They won again. And the South Carolina and the Iowa Women's NCAA Division I championship game. Great game. And even when the lead was in double digits, both teams had double-digit leads. Iowa early and South Carolina later. I will tell you that, and I never heard of this player until yesterday, Corsoba or something like that. And she's going to the WNBA. Big, physical, not really graceful, but not uncoordinated either, a little bit uncoordinated, but big and effective. And really what happened was South Carolina's height won the game. You could say that the best team beat the best player in the country, in Caitlin Clark. The game wasn't over, and she took a horrendous shot that was so beyond the three-point line. You don't take that shot that she took. And it was like an 8-point lead. They could have gotten it down to 5 or 6 and still be in the game. That was just a clank, garbage shot. And that was the ball game there. But I do think that the better team won, obviously undefeated. Two way different styles. You had South Carolina, much more bruising style, and you had Iowa, much more finesse team. And it was interesting. And I was pretty jazzed up. I put it back on in the fourth quarter and stayed with a lot of the fourth quarter until I knew the game was over. Then I put the Yankees back on. But they got that 12-point lead down to like 6. And I think had the ball even at one point. They did have the ball. So then you're talking about getting it down to 3, one-possession game, possibly, and being right in it. And they started actually taking just bad shots, and South Carolina just didn't miss in that fourth quarter. Tony Orlando joins us next.
WPGG Atlantic City, WENJ HD3 Millville, a Town Square media station. Everything you need to know in 6 minutes. From Harry Hurley Way and the world's playground to the broadcast pioneers of Philadelphia Hall of Fame, you're about to find out why Harry Hurley has been named to the Talkers Magazine list of the 100 most important talk show hosts in the nation. Live from the studios of Town Square Media in Northfield, it's Hurley in the Morning on WPG Talk Radio 95.5 and the WPG Talk Radio app.
It is 6 minutes past the hour. Welcome back to the Hurley in the Morning program. And this is indeed a privilege. You know, I love every day when I sign on. And the fact that we have been able to, for 32 years, to do this together is something that every single day I never take for granted. We are about to say good morning to a legend, and that term is overused, but not in this case, that has done what he has done twice as long as the 32 years that I just cited. And by the way, he's not done. We have been, I think, one of the few that have reported this correctly around the country. You know, it's easy to say, oh, Tony Orlando retired. Tony Orlando did not retire. Tony Orlando is not going to be doing a full live concert tour schedule the way that he has done for 64 years. But I can assure you, and he will in just a moment, he's not retiring from anything. And if you were at his final Atlantic City live performance in this iteration of performing regularly in the tour, modality, and then 6 days later at Mohegan Sun, if you had the pleasure and we had the privilege to be at both, Tony made it very clear he'll be doing concerts for military benefit, for other not-for-profits, and writing and doing a lot of really good stuff. This is merely the regular rigors of a concert tour that you do until a point in time when you decide that you're going to do something different. A chief member of the FFL Club, the legendary Tony Orlando, joins our program. Tony, welcome.
Harry, I can't begin to explain the feeling I felt in my heart when you just described what retirement was for me. Even though you're absolutely right, I wasn't retiring from the industry, and I've never retired from performing for the veterans that I've worked for since 1973. Our military, and it's been something I'm very proud of to have raised money on their behalf, and will continue to do so as a performer. But the rigors of traveling at 80 years old make it tough. It's just too much to get through those airports. So I really want to thank you for clearing that up and for having me on your legendary radio show there. I'm a big fan of yours before I even met you. And now that we've become, as we say, FFL, a club that you are part of and I am part of it because of the gentleman that put that show on at the arena and is very much part of Atlantic City Resort, and that's Tom Cantone, along with the president, beautiful Mark and Tony Antonio. He has been absolutely incredible to me through the years. This has been something I wish your listening audience can understand. And I hope you just give me a moment to respond to what you said, because this has been a lifetime for me. 16 years old, I stepped on the stage for the first time at Palisades Amusement Park with a disc jockey by the name of Cousin Bruce Morrow. 64 years later, because of Tom Cantone, who put together this opportunity to do the show at both in Atlantic City at resorts and then finalize it at Mohegan Sun. That same disc jockey, 64 years later, introduces me to the same stage as a retired performer. I don't think that's ever happened before, and it's a very poetic, poignant, not ending, but part of a story that's almost like this total eclipse that we're about to experience.
And by the way, it requires great longevity on behalf of both of you to still be here to do it and to want to do it and to actually have done it. And as you know, and for those who weren't there, I know we have folks listening right now that they were in that sea of humanity that completely filled Mohegan Sun Arena. The energy, Tony, I want you to also capture that in a bottle for us. The energy the whole night. But yes, when Cousin Brucey comes out and introduces the legendary Tony Orlando at your last live concert performance in that iteration, come on. It was off to the races at that point, Tony.
And here's what makes it so heartwarming and such a deep felt thing. That night, there was, 10,000 people. And there was a sense of almost family. It was like this family got together
and said to the old man and the family, hey, come on, we come to celebrate your life. We love you. And everybody came, and all they cared about was just being there for you. Time did not exist. I think I did 3 hours and 20 minutes. I've never done a Bruce Springsteen 3 hours and 20 minutes in my life.
You beat the record.
Yeah, I beat the record, and I was there, and I wanted to, by the way.
Yeah.
I love Brucey. I love his cousin Brucey and Bruce Springsteen. So I wanted very much to be able to break that record if there is such a one. But you know something, Harry? When you do something for 64 years, and it's been your life since you're 16 years old, the people, that's what motivates a performer. It's not money. It's not an award. It's not stardom. It's not fame. Fame isn't really fame at all. It only appears that way for distance. Fame is nothing but a marquee. It's a mirage. But there is love between a performer and an audience. And when you go 64 years with people and they still show up, 10,000 of them, lifting their phones and turning their lights on their phones on the end of your show and
great.
singing along with you like you're Taylor Swift out there. And I can't begin to describe the joy and yet the sadness that I felt on stage. You asked me before we came on this interview, try to describe it. One half of my heart, like this eclipse, was separate from the other half. That night, both the love in my heart and the actual physical self came together as one. Both life sources coming together as one. I'm using the eclipse as a metaphor of what happened to me that night. I'm looking out to people, some of which, there were some fans out there who I've seen and met since they're 7 years old, Harry. And they're now in their 50s. And they come to the show with tears in their eyes and joy on their faces and support for me. I can't tell you or your listening audience how grateful to God and to the people for this incredible, magical tour that I've been blessed with for 64 years, because it was just a rooftop dream to me.
Amazing.
So
Tony, after the break, please continue. And I also want to let our listeners know, Tony Orlando did something on Friday, March 15th that's never been done before. And the cement with the handprints and a nice inscription from the star, whether it was Frank Sinatra, Liberace, Cher, Stevie Wonder, Diana Ross, Tom Jones, the Beach Boys, Kenny Rogers. I could keep going. There are so many. But in reality, it's so few that ever hit this level of success. It's Resorts Casino Hotel Atlantic City's Walk of Fame. And, of course, the legendary Tony Orlando put his hands in concrete many decades ago, back in, I guess it was 81. But you know that better than I. But I do know you became the only person in Resorts Casino Hotel Atlantic City Walk of Fame history to place your handprints in wet concrete twice. I want to talk about that because that was the beginning of what I call the penultimate performance, which was the Atlantic City concert, and then 6 days later at the Mohegan Sun Arena. So we'll see how much time Tony has. I, of course, have until Brian Kilmeade at 6 minutes past the top of the next hour. We have as much time as Tony has this morning to regale on not only 64 years as a legendary artist, but also, if it's possible, and this is really amazing to say this and for it to be true and not just saying it to be nice, Tony Orlando is a legend. Tony Orlando is a hit maker. Tony Orlando is a hit maker as a solo performer. He's a hit maker as a group, Tony Orlando and Dawn. I also want to talk about the reunion show, which was a part of that Mohegan Sun evening, which I will never forget. And I want to ask Tony to tell us all about reuniting with Thelma and Joyce and what that was like. But what I was saying was the success of 64 years is almost unparalleled. It's incredible. Few ever enjoy a career measured in this many decades and being as relevant in year 64 as when he had a network television program. That's amazing. But Tony Orlando is an even better person. That's what I'm trying to impart during this time that we spend together today. Tony Orlando continues on the Hurley in the Morning program. Back in just a little bit.
Hurley in the Morning.
The more we talk about it, the better.
WPG Talk Radio 95.5. You're listening to Hurley in the Morning.
It's a source I can trust.
WPG Talk Radio 95.5.
Thank you. Welcome back. 20 minutes past the hour with the legendary Tony Orlando. Few are of such a stature that they require no introduction. You hear Tony speak, you immediately know that you're listening to the always listenable Tony Orlando, who, by the way, is an accomplished talk show host in his own right on a blowtorch radio station, iconic radio station, WABC, out of what used to be called the greatest city in the world. I'm sure it still is, New York City, Saturday nights at 10 p.m. Tony, before we go back to the cement and your hands and twice only you and all this good stuff we're going to talk about, and for our listeners, we're not even going to repeat the same thing twice, and we're going to do the entire hour together. This is going to be, I'm going to hermetically seal this and send it to the Smithsonian Institution. This will be studied for decades, maybe centuries to come. This interview today with the great Tony Orlando. Tony, tell us when you do a show every week, because I've had the pleasure to talk to you about your show, and it's phenomenal. It's so good. It's wonderful what you do. How do you like being in the radio side of the business?
Well, I've learned something about radio. I thought I knew radio until I started doing it. I want everybody to know this is one unique art form because people don't see you. People don't, it's not a TV, it's not a movie. It's all coming through the sound of this component, either in your car called a radio at home or on your phone. And the person who, like yourself, has to make the person who's listening see all things. You know what it reminds me of, Harry? It reminds me of one day I went to a baseball game with the great Ray Charles. He loved to go to the baseball game, so I picked him up one day, and we went to Dodger Stadium, and I had these marvelous seats. And he's sitting next to me, and the first pitch comes in, and he yells out at the top of his lungs, "Fastball, inside strike, right, Tone?" So I looked at him, and it was a fast strike inside. And I look at him, and I go, "What?" He starts to laugh. Next pitch, high and outside, a curveball, right, Tony? I go, "Ray, you've been lying to the world. You can see?" He goes, "Listen, wait. Next pitch, bam, line drive, center field, base hit, single." I go, "Now, come on, Ray, stop this. What is it?" He said, "Listen to me, Tony. You should only be able to see what I hear."
That's it. When you lose one sight, another becomes accentuated. So
and that's
he
radio,
could hear it.
Harry.
Yes. Radio is what we call sticky. It is the theater of the mind, and I love radio. I like TV. I love radio. Radio is the theater of the mind where, like you just said, you have to paint a picture so that someone actually believes that they saw it. They heard it, but they also saw it. So he knew this, the crack, the sound. You could tell. I mean, I was watching the Yankees yesterday, Tony, and when Soto or Aaron Judge or Stanton, when they hit the ball, it makes a sound that you don't hear very often. There's just something to the power and the bat speed of a handful of people that, you know, a lot of times it sounds like a click, the ball hitting a bat. But when it's the killers, you hear this sound that is just unforgettable, hard to describe. And I will say baseball on radio is still the best. Vince Scully.
And that's what you do.
Yes.
Harry,
Well, that's what
you do. You see, when you do, and I only do it once a week, and let me tell you something, everybody. I do it for 2 hours. This man's been doing it for 32 years, every single day. And I'm telling you, when you sit behind that microphone and you know that your responsibility is to make this picture clear into the mind of someone out there listening in the middle of their day or starting their day, it's an awesome responsibility, and it's a talent that doesn't get enough credit. People do not realize you're the writer, producer, creator of a movie of the mind, as you put it. So to answer your question, to do what you do, let me tell you something, baby. That's an art form I'm just beginning to learn and have the ultimate respect for.
Well, you have such a great show, and you do a wonderful job, and it really reflects well on you because the entire ABC, the president, who I know, your owner, Mr. John Catsimatidis.
Yeah.
Oh, my gosh. I mean, you had everybody came out for your Mohegan Sun performance, and that's the kind of love that you generate, Tony, from your fans, from your colleagues. And I want to ask you, when you put your hands on Friday, March 15th at Resorts Casino Hotel in Atlantic City into that wet concrete and then autographed for the second time, that was really special. No one's ever done it twice before. Tell us about that.
Well, first of all, Atlantic City was the first city I ever worked at 16 years old. I went to Atlantic. This is why this thing is so crazy. We talked about Bruce Morrow bringing me on for the first time. We talked about him then bringing me on 64 years later. We talked about my last shows were in Atlantic City and with Tom Cantone at Mohegan Sun in Uncasville, Connecticut. Let me tell you what the synergy of that is. So the first time I did the boardwalk was at the Steel Pier with Dick Clark. There was, I think, a beginning of summer show for American Bandstand. That was my first time in Atlantic City. My first time in any casino was at Resorts Hotel with Tony Orlando and Dawn in the 80s. I come into the 80s to the Resorts Hotel, and I see Frank Sinatra's hands outside on the boardwalk concrete as you enter the hotel. They asked me to do the same. So now, wait. I'm asked by Tom Cantone, where are you going to do your last show? And I said, Tom, I would love to do it in Atlantic City because Atlantic City was where it began for me. He said, well, Resorts is part of the Mohegan Sun family. Why don't you, if you want to do it with me, why don't you do it there, ended it at Atlantic City, and then come here with me, who I met, by the way, Tom Cantone, when he was the buyer, I think it was at the Sands Hotel in Atlantic City in the 80s.
True.
Who would have thunk it that same guy was the guy who ended up and created this party with both Mark at Resorts, this ending to this dream journey of mine. I hope I'm making sense.
Perfect.
It's so poetic. It's so hands-on. It's almost miracle-like, Harry. It almost has a fairy tale feeling to it. You said to me before this interview, what was it like, Tony, through that last week? It's like a fairy tale ending, and it's almost has a little bit of God and dimension in it, because who could say in 1980 I meet a guy named Tom Cantone. There wasn't a Mohegan Sun. There was no Mark Antonio at that hotel at the Resorts. They all come together as one big force to give me the finale to what was a dream come true for me.
Tony, was it a whirlwind, the 6 days from Atlantic City to New York media that you did, and then on to Mohegan Sun? Encapsulate what those 6 days were like.
Exhaustion. I never felt more exhausted. No, I never felt more exhilarated, because it was all built. The piston to the engine was all raw emotion. So in other words, I go to my first interviews in Atlantic City to talk about, of course, being at the Great Resorts Hotel with Mark. I spent 2 days doing press there, then I do the show. I bring on a local singer who I am a big fan of, Michelle Pardo, who came on and absolutely killed people. Johnny Patillo, who started in Atlantic City, and I met him in a show I wrote at Harris called Jukebox Dreams in 1983. All of these little things are happening, and it's all happening with emotion. So it's emotion-driven. So I get through the show. Oh, my God. You come with your wife to the show. Joe Piscopo is there with you backstage. We're hugging. We're kissing. It's over. Oh, my God. It's done well. Now I go to New York City. I drive, and I do all the morning shows, which, as you know, starts at getting up at 3 in the morning and end up with Fox and Friends and Newsmax at 6 in the morning. You then do all the radio shows up until 3 o'clock in the afternoon. You finally get back to your room, the same thing the next day. Then you finally get up in the morning after doing all those morning shows. You get in the car and you drive, thank you, Mohegan Sun, from Atlantic City to New York, from New York to Uncasville, where I do a press conference. And I do phoners, and I do more interviews. Then comes the night of the show. Nervous. I'm frightened. I'm scared. I don't want this show to go wrong. I want everything to go right. Tom Cantone has made this like it's a Posturepedic bed. Everything is done for me in such a way I can do no wrong except if I make a mistake. The lighting was perfect. The sound was perfect. My manager, Susan Mineo, calling the shots for the lighting and directing the TV cameras for a TV special. Now the show begins to open. I look out. There's 10,000 people out there, packed to the brim at this arena that's won every accolade and award there is to win from arenas. I am now introduced by him, by Bruce Morrow, that man that brought me on when I was 16. I'm thinking to myself, how am I going to feel when I walk out there and lo and behold, the audience stands up. They stand up. Harry, you were there because I saw your smiling face taking pictures of me from the stage. There you were, Harry, caring about every little aspect of what was going on with me. And because Tom is your best friend and he's mine, and we wanted everything to be perfect. My wife, my daughter, my family, my friends are all together in this arena. And the first song I get through to a standing ovation. I'm in a place now that honestly, Harry, was a place that if I tried to remember it, it's hard to, because it was like a fairy tale dream. I don't know if this describes to everybody what it was like, but I swear to you, everybody listening, think of the greatest moment you've ever had in your life and then multiply that by 64 years.
Wow. Tony, when we come back, we're at the halftime break. When we come back, I've got to get to what was such a lot in the crowd. Most of the crowd had no idea that on this incredible evening, not only the great Tony Orlando, but a Tony Orlando and Dawn reunion. And you did a mini set of many of your iconic hits with Thelma and Joyce. I want to have you again. And by the way, you just asked, what did that sound like? I was having like an out-of-body experience listening to you encapsulate perfectly the heart and soul of that evening. You know what I really take from the evening? You fed off the audience fed off of you. There was unconditional love. No one wanted it to end. You could have said, hey, we just set the record. We just beat him. We just beat Springsteen, but we're going to stay another 3 hours. No, everybody would have given you a standing ovation and stood up. Nobody ever, it was hard. I'm going to ask you about that later, Tony. Did you want it to never end? When you finally had to end the show? I want to talk about what that felt like. Much more with the legendary Tony Orlando on the Hurley in the Morning program on the station that plays the winners. WPG Talk Radio 95.5. FFL, Friend for Life. Tony Orlando continues.
In a world full of fake news, AI, and unverified information on social media, where can you get the latest, most accurate South Jersey news? WPG Talk Radio 95.5 and the WPG Talk Radio app. Don't wait for the newspaper to come in the mail. The WPG Talk Radio app is updated around the clock. From New Jersey's largest radio news team. Accurate, dependable, reliable. When you need to know, it's WPG Talk Radio 95.5 and the WPG Talk Radio app. Hurley in the morning.
It's a woke society, and I am fed up with it.
WPG Talk Radio 95.5.
We are back. It's 38 minutes past the hour. Tony Orlando, if you're just joining the program, our guest for the entire hour plus. We'll take you right to Brian Kilmeade, who's having a great day already. By the time he signs on, he's done 3 hours of Fox and Friends, and then he goes right in to 3 more hours of radio. Then you see Brian, and Brian is a favorite of both mine and Tony's. He's just one of the great guys in our business. It's not uncommon that he'll do Fox and Friends television, the Brian Kilmeade Show. There's your 6 hours. He'll pop up at noon on Outnumbered. Invariably, throughout the day, maybe 3 o'clock with Martha McCallum. He'll be a panelist on the 5, and then he can be on during the evening as well. It's really uncanny, and even fills in for some of the primetime shows. So yeah, he's like Tony Orlando. Brian's one of the real great guys in our business. That's somebody else that we have that's a good friend, Tony.
Yes, Tom Cantone.
And Brian Kilmeade.
Brian Kilmeade, you just described him right. Brian Kilmeade, when I did his show right after we just discussed my trip from Atlantic City to New York to do the morning shows, embraces you very much like you, Harry. He's very similar to you. He's a hard worker. He believes in his feelings about the country. He loves America. Mm-hmm. He truly is that guy you see. He's not a phony. The smile and the dimples are real. He is a handsome, sweet, wonderful friend who I've known for many, 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 since the 80s, and he's never changed. And yes, he's the hardest working man in all of TV and radio, without a question.
It's amazing. Now, Tony, something happened that the crowd just jumped out of their own skin when Thelma and Joyce, Dawn, and Tony Orlando and Dawn have a full-blown reunion show within this ultimate Tony Orlando show. Tell us what that meant to you. What was that like to sing together again? And I just want to turn it over to you to just share your heart, share your amazing thoughts about what took place.
Well, first of all, people always ask me, do you still talk to the girls, after all these years? Thelma Hopkins and Joyce Vincent have been friends of mine and part of my life since the 70s, and we never had one bump in the road. Never one. There was never a disagreement, never an argument, never a hateful word, never a jealousy, never anything but support for each other all of these years. And remember, I met Joyce in her 20s. I think she was 25 or 26 years old, and Thelma was 23 or 22 years old, and now they're in their 70s, and I just turned 80. So that's a lot of years to be close to people who had a little bit of a magic carpet ride ourselves from 1971 to 1978. Well, when they walked on stage, and I heard Thelma's voice, if you remember, This is one thing I can't remember. You don't think you can do this without us,
yes,
do you, pal?
It was so good. It was perfect. It was just a perfect way.
I said, oh, my God, they're here.
Yes.
Well, when I turned and I saw them come on to this most significant show of my whole career, 64 years on stage, and there they were to travel 3,000 miles to be there for me. Thelma had to stop shooting what she's doing a film right now, like she always is. She's the longest-running sitcom actress in history. Joyce was on the road as one of the Supremes. She keeps the music with the Supremes alive and well. They stopped that to come 3,000 miles and to walk on stage and sing the 5 number 1 songs we had. And if you remember, I was crying.
Yeah,
I started to cry. It was like joyful tears. I now know what the word joyful tears mean, because that's what they were. It was tears of joy coming out of me, seeing these 2 beautiful, talented friends, sisters of mine, coming out to say, okay, you're done, but you're not done with us. And they came out, and we sang Candida, Knocked 3 Times, and Yellow Ribbon, and Gypsy Rose, and He Don't Love You Like I Love You, the 5 number 1s. And then I sprung something on them, Harry, because they didn't know I was going to do Abraham, Martin, and John, and we didn't know if either one of us was going to remember the words. This is the truth.
It was beautiful. And I know you're going to do it, but I want to make sure. Explain why that poignant song. It was a critical tipping point in your career, at a very fragile point in American history. Explain why that was so important.
Okay, so picture everybody, you're back in 1970, 74, our first full year, and I get the president of CBS comes down and says to me, Tony, I've just gotten a couple of letters talking about and racial slurring here. It's pretty heavy. I said, well, how many did you get? He said, 9. I said, well, Freddie, there's 36 million people watching us every Wednesday night because there was only 3 networks then, Harry. There was no cable. So we had that big an audience on Wednesday nights, 8 o'clock. And he goes, well, every letter we get here at CBS, we evaluate it, and we think each letter represents 250,000 people. One letter. We have 9 letters. That's a significant number. And I read the letters, and they're awful, Harry. They're awful. The N-word everywhere, they're awful. He said, you know, you were the first multiracial group to ever have a primetime show. In a way, in a small way, you're the kind of Jackie Robinsons of television here. He said, well, how do you want to handle it? And I thought for a second. I said, well, can I do this tonight? He goes, yeah. I said, I'll do it in a song. And I chose Abraham, Martin, and John. And I said to the director, I said, would you mind just doing headshots when each one of us take a solo? And that's exactly what he did. You can see it on YouTube. And that night, I felt the need to do that because that was a turning point for CBS, for us, and for the country. Because never again, Harry, not one in the next 3 years after we did that song did we get one slanderous racial letter in my time at CBS. That was unbelievable. And I can only credit it to that song. I can't point a finger at anything else. So I wanted very much to make that point to the audience, the position that we were in, these 3 kids were put in, and I felt it was the appropriate thing to the finale with the girls. And we sang it. We remembered everything. The band, God bless my band, they were there. It was an ad-lib situation, and we sang it, and I hope it hit your heart like it felt in ours.
Oh, it did. It was like a proud, just triumphant civil rights moment, Tony, that you achieved. It was beyond powerful, beyond beautiful. It was so unifying and just phenomenal. And it showed you took a moment and a tipping point that could have tipped in an ugly way, and you carried the day because you did something that was transformational, and that just put it down. That put it to rest. You killed it. You buried it. We'll continue with Tony Orlando after this short break. We'll be uninterrupted until Brian Kilmeade at 10:06. So we're going to make it count. A lot more with Tony Orlando coming up in just 2 minutes.
Starting your day the right way with Hurley in the morning.
It's a refreshing drive to work in the morning.
WPG Talk Radio 95.5. WPGG Atlantic City. WENJ HD3 Millville. A Town Square media station.
Hey everyone, it's Ted from Consumer Cellular, the guy in the orange sweater, and this is your wake-up call. If you're paying too much for wireless service, you don't have to keep having that nightmare. Consumer Cellular has the same fast, reliable coverage as the leading carriers for less. And for a limited time, new customers receive their second month free when they sign up and use promo code MONTHFREE by May 31st. So why keep spending more than you have to? Seriously, wake up and call 1-888-FREEDOM or visit consumercellular.com.
Taxes, fees, and other third-party charges will apply. See website for additional details.
Hey, it's Jesse Kelly. Are you still on the fence about owning gold? It's time to pull the trigger with the Oxford Gold Group and buy gold and silver. Nobody can predict the future, but we can't put our head in the sand either. The Oxford Gold Group are the pros. They make owning gold and silver simple and easy to understand. Call Oxford Gold Group right now, and you may qualify for up to $10,000 in free precious metals. Call 833-995-GOLD. That's 833-995-GOLD.
Hurley in the morning.
They stick to the facts.
WPG Talk Radio 95.5.
Thank you. Welcome back. 49 minutes past the hour, 16 minutes until Brian Kilmeade. We are visiting with the legendary Tony Orlando. I'm basically calling this the exit interview, if you will. I wanted this to be a long-form interview that we would cover important content about what 64 years in this business has been like. I also want to talk a little bit about what the future holds, because Tony has a lot of ideas that are in his head that he's going to write, and he's going to continue to perform and things like that. So it's not a full-blown retirement. It's a retirement from just one aspect of entertainment, and that is the rigor of a regular year-long, concert tour schedule, which I don't think people realize, Tony. Flying, traveling, all the media you do, and then you have to do the performance itself. It's exhausting. I don't care what age you are.
Yeah. You don't get paid for the shows, Harry. You get paid for the travel and everything that goes with it. For instance, what really brought me to say it's time, I was sitting at an airport. I'm at Detroit Airport, and I had to make a small connection. I was sitting at Detroit Airport for 9 hours. And then the guy comes out and he says the plane has been canceled because the pilots need their sleep. And I thought, I just spent 9 hours at this airport. And I had a hard time moving from one gate to another. They made us change the gates 3 times. And it all kind of came to me at once. So why am I I can't keep doing this. First of all, the overhead to fly 6 positions everywhere today is beyond belief. You can't even believe it. The cost of traveling, the per diem, is the workman's comp, the commissions to the agencies, all the realities that most performers don't want to talk about that make up a tour to come together. And when you've been in this business for 64 years, your audience demographic is getting older. So the younger audience is getting booked more. And you start to realize, wait a minute, this is a time to take a good look. Am I selling enough candies in this candy store to keep it open? Am I able to get up like Brian Kilmeade at that early morning and do 22 hours a day? Not on the road. I could do it at a radio station or in my house or in the studio, but I can't do it on the road because it is a killer. That's what changed my mind, to not do it anymore. And he's so right. And I want to apologize sometimes for being unable to talk like this and make long sentences. You've got a work of art, being able to say things in a concise period of time. So forgive me for my long answers.
No, that's beautiful. It's beautiful how you speak and your heart that you display. I really believe it's the secret sauce. Your talent is there. The vocals have always been strong. The music's been great. So all of that you deliver. But I believe 64 years of longevity, that the secret sauce is the relationship, the love, and the respect that you have shown and that you have been able to endure for all this time, your fans. I saw 10,000 people that it didn't matter if they were younger or if they have been with you for all 64 years. Everybody was like a child that night. In love with you. True. And celebrating you. And you fed off of that, didn't you?
Well, my drummer's been with me for 42 years. My keyboard player has been with me for 33 years. My brother has been with me since the day he's born. And so that's a family. And it was as tough on them, and still is, because there was coming to an ending of what was really their income was with me. and they were loyal to me. They never went to other bands. They never went out with anybody else. They just stuck it out with me, good or bad, good years, bad years. They're unbelievable family, my band, as you could tell from the stage, I'm sure.
Oh, you could tell the love and the respect, and that's all part of why I always say you cannot fake sincerity. People aren't staying together in multiple decades because they don't want to. I mean, that's the loyalty factor, which also you display and you receive it in kind in return. Loyalty, a big deal.
It's everything.
Yeah.
You know, one of the things I want to say on this show, we both have a mutual friend in the name of Tom Cantone, which we've mentioned his name, president of sports and entertainment at Mohegan Sun, and of course, co-presidents with Mark at the resorts. Both of them are unbelievable friends of ours. And Tom Cantone really is the person that put this together. I want to be able to say that. It was his vision. When he said, "You're going to close here?" I said, "I want to close in Atlantic City and with you at Mohegan Sun," because Mohegan Sun, quite frankly, was my favorite venue to play in the whole world. Atlantic City was my favorite city to play in the whole world. So it was obvious that's one of the two places I wanted to play. And lo and behold, they're both together as one, as a family. As I said, this was like God intervention time. But Tom Cantone did everything for me, your FFL and mine, right down to I just got in the mail a picture that he had of me in the hallway. And on the back of that picture, he had every single person on his staff, everybody in the arena that works for me, from the lights to sound to turning to the rig guys that bring down all the lighting, to the council members of the Mohegan tribe, signed this picture, and it said, "This is the finale of the finale. We love you," and everyone signed it to me. How can you not love and respect a friend like that? What he did for me, and I know you feel the same way, and I want everybody to know this is a hardball business. You don't come across people like Mark and Tom in this business every day. Sure. It's kind of changed. There's a coldness I feel in the industry. I don't know what it is, but it's not the same.
You know what I think? See if you agree with this. And I'm not putting anybody down. You know, people say things change. It was much more about relationship building. Now it's more transactional.
Yeah, that's right. That's exactly right. And that's why I'm taking the time to say this, because I want people to know there's hope out there.
Yep.
And the hope is that we maintain our good spirit, our good upbringing, respect for elders, respect for each other. Thanks God for the gifts that we get every single day. Do not eliminate him from your life. Do not value the friendships in business. Do not take for granted your family life. All of those traditional values that you talk about every single day on your radio show is important for everyone who listens to you to know that if we pass it on to the next generation, and the next generation will be okay, and I believe we will. And this was an example of it. Two men who don't have to do this. One radio giant like yourself doesn't have to do this radio show, does it because they feel something simple in their heart. It's called love and respect. And I am the participant, the benefactor of that love and respect from Tom Cantone, from Mark, and from yourself.
So Tony, apropos that while you are speaking about Tom just checked in. He's flying, or he would have been appearing this morning, so he's very well aware that the great Tony Orlando was on this hour. He just wrote, while we were talking about him, I just wrote, "Perfect timing. Tony and I are just talking about you." And it's just, there's no accidents. Everything happens when it's supposed to happen, how it's supposed to happen. You're talking about Tom, and there he is. So that is just awesome. And this much I know, one after another. I mean, we don't even have time in the 7 minutes that we have left in today's program if we started to list all the people that you had the opportunity, and I'll tell you another thing that you do that I just love, and I mentioned this to Tom and to Mark and to my wife Margie. I said, Tony makes everybody feel special. When you brought the young performer up, he didn't know that was going to happen. I mean, he was out of his skin.
Guy Baldwin.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, that's the other thing about you. Your mind is so sharp, you forget nothing. You have like a photographic memory of names, and that's a huge thing because that's important. I forgot that young man's name, but you didn't. And you learned about him from the Tie Yellow Ribbon TikTok video that he did, or Facebook video that he did, and it was amazing. And I'll tell you what, that must have been a real kick for you, that a youngster his age, if he's a teenager or whatever age he is, I heard 2 different ages, not during your show, but after the show, but he's very young, and he's singing Tie Yellow Ribbon for that generation, that young generation, not even majority age, singing that. That must have been very meaningful to you. Obviously it was.
Well, absolutely, and he did it so well, and he produces his own videos. If anybody gets a chance, look up Ty Baldwin. He's talented. He will be a future superstar someday, and grateful and kind. And by the way, talk about grateful and kind. How about some of those videos, Harry? Adam Sandler, Lionel Richie, Larry the Cable Guy, Billy and Marilyn McCool, Debbie,
Lionel Richie.
Marie. It was mind-blowing.
You had Marie Osmond, Lionel Richie. We could just keep going and going and going. It was a who's who. I'm telling you, it was like Jeff Edwards. I was waiting for him to pop out like This Is Your Life, Tony Orlando, with the big book. I mean, everybody was coming through big time. Priscilla Presley. You had other performers that I'm forgetting, but iconic.
Jay Siegel, The Tokens.
There you go.
And Eddie Kim, who wrote Sugar Sugar, got up out of the audience, by the way, impromptu, and ad-libbed it and did the Sugar Sugar for the audience. They loved it because he wrote that song. And
tell me who was the young gray-haired man still hitting falsetto at his age? I mean, who was that again?
Jay Siegel, who did Lion Sleeps Tonight with the Tokens.
That's it. You said it. You said it before.
Yeah.
So,
and by the way, he produced Candida and Knock 3 Times for me. He was the record producer along with Hank Bedros and Dave Apple. Imagine that. He was the spark plug where it all started for Tony Orlando and Dawn. I was working for Clive Davis and Vice President CBS at the time, never thinking I'd be back on stage.
You know, when you brought the very humble, lovely Priscilla Presley into the show, it actually felt like 2 different vibes. Her vibe, and it also felt like Elvis just took a dip and just like a little peek in on Tony Orlando and the Mohegan Sun gathering for Tony Orlando. I felt that. I'm not being corny. I felt that, Tony.
Well, I did too, because she personifies that. She's been through hell.
Yeah.
I've known Priscilla since 1973. She's never failed to show up. She is a loyal, unbelievable woman and friend. And she is a great mother. She was a great wife. She saved a Graceland.
She
they
did.
wanted to tear it down herself. She did it herself to keep the legacy of Elvis alive. She is really a queen of queens, in my opinion. And I was honored and privileged. And the audience felt that. I think you're right. I think they felt Elvis in the room.
Oh, I did.
Elvis did not leave. Yeah, Elvis did not leave that night.
He did not leave the building. We are down to about 3.5 minutes, and we didn't script anything, ladies and gentlemen, in this interview, except during one break, Tony said there was something he wanted to close with. I don't know what that is, but Tony does. Let me turn it to you.
Basically, my name is Michael Anthony Orlando Casavita, so Tony Orlando is my middle name. But I've been Tony Orlando. He was born when I was 16 years old. And I got this feeling as though that Tony Orlando, that person that was created at 16, and then the other night, he kind of like, I laid him to rest. And all of a sudden, Michael Cassavetes became important because Michael Cassavetes is the one who's going to write the screenplays. And Michael Cassavetes is going to be the one who writes the Broadway show about Tony. And Michael Cassavetes is the one that's going to go out and make sure that Tony does not lay down completely and gets up and performs for his veterans and earns money for their safety and to acknowledge them for what they've done for our country. So in a way, Michael Cassavetes will be on every book that I write, and it will be the author of every play that I write. It will not be under the name Tony Orlando.
So Michael Anthony Orlando Cassavetes has a second act.
Correct.
Oh my gosh, this is that.
I know that sounds kind of macabre, but in a way, I was watching Tony Orlando, and people coming to say what a great guy he was, and I had the opportunity to watch him pass away. I know it sounds macabre, but in a way, he's laid to rest. What a great job you did, Tony. Look at all these people; they love you. And Michael Cassavetes had the honor of attending that event. It's strange, but that's the way I felt.
Tony, final minute. Why do you think? Can you describe it? And I know you're modest, so I'm going to ask you to talk about yourself a little bit in a way that you don't usually. But why do you think Tie Yellow Ribbon, Candida, all the different ones that you mentioned, your 5 number 1 hits, you guys were hit makers. Why is that still relevant 50 years later?
I don't know. And all I can say is that Yellow Ribbon right now, Yellow Ribbons are flying high in Israel.
It's an anthem. It's an anthem.
Yes, there is a Yellow Ribbon. They're all over Jerusalem, hoping that those hostages, Americans and Israelis, come home. And it's been that way ever since the POWs came home from Vietnam, and it hasn't stopped. The Iranian hostage crisis, and on and on. The ribbon is a symbol of hope and freedom and love to the ones who are held captive.
Tony, we're down to 30 seconds. I just want to say real quick and give you the final word that this is a privilege to conduct this interview with you. I could not be more proud of you, could not be more proud of your career and the way that you handled yourself in Atlantic City and in Connecticut. It was so impressive. It was masterclass. Closing comment.
Well, I want to thank you, first of all, for taking the time to give me 1 hour on your precious show that is so respected and so loved by the whole world. Harry Hurley, thank you for making this the period at the end of the sentence.
FFL, Tony.
FFL, my buddy. I love you.
Love you back. Hold on. We'll say goodbye real quick off air. That's Tony Orlando. If you missed any of it when the podcast is uploaded, please download it. And Tony was very memorable today.